Chat settings pause.
Mics are live.
By the way, Doom for zombies. You missed a discussion earlier. We did start the stream on time. It did go up at 10 o'clock Central. You can go eat a hot dog.
Thanks, Pizza Trains.
Yay!
I'm 4.
Cool. All right. How's chat tonight? Sound, yay! What kind of hot dog? The sandwich kind of hot dog. I hear the voices again. Look, you guys. It is happening.
It's happening. It's happening.
Gray, if you have the stream up at all,
Yeah.
Blue has it to where the emotes that we put into chat actually fly across the screen.
I saw that. I was wondering what Master Chief was doing on the screen.
Yeah. So it's whatever emotes go up.
I unlocked that the other day, and I was like, "Yep, this is gonna get abused so much."
It is amazing. Big yikes.
Yay!
I'm happy you made it too, Lotta.
Thanks, Miss Gingerish. Gingerish. I nearly said Miss Ginger Ale.
That sounds really good right now.
Oh shit!
Girl Sam.
What shit? Oh, all the subs. Thank you for the subs.
Hexco, brr.
Zone enhance replicate.
Hey, Mal. He should support the BF. I appreciate it. I'm sure he does too.
I do.
I do.
Dancing.
Zone enhance.
Mobile lag is just dumb. That stinks. All right.
What? All right, you good?
Zone
That.
enhance replicate.
Oh my god.
Doom. Put a hot dog in your mouth. Chew it. Swallow it. Good boy.
Savor that hot dog.
Savor it. Enjoy the hot dog.
You know, in Soviet Russia, hot dog is sometimes all we have to eat.
You know, it's actually quite profound that we have you on this episode, since your Russian accent would fit quite well with Rasputin.
I would agree. I've done the Rasputin voice for, I think, 1 or 2 people before.
Yes. Have you done Saint? Since Saint is also Russian.
I have not.
Burp.
Be easy. Rah, rah, Rasputin. I do not like that song, mainly because Cole plays it ad nauseum sometimes. And I like to write along with her on her Spotify, because you can actually listen to the same thing that your friends are listening to if you're in the same Discord server. It's actually a ton of fun. I learn a lot of new music that way. And Cole and I have, depending on the day, have similar taste. Some days I'm just like, no, I just can't. I can't. Spice Girls. I just can't after a while. It's like, yeah. It just depends.
There comes a point where you're like, all right, I'm done, and then press the cancel button.
I also sneak into it because it doesn't alert the person you're watching it unless they check Discord. And so she'll be listening to like epic movie trailer type music. And then all of a sudden... Pins gave you a mine? What? Anyway, she was listening to like the epic movie trailers, and then for some reason she throws in this like screamo, like I want to fuck you up type thing, just randomly. Yeah, just to like throw me off track because she knows I'm listening. Blue is so excited. All right, start this, Blue.
I got a
Let's get going.
hypermine
Yes, you did.
and a hyper cheese. I don't know what cheese was for.
Are you denying the cheese?
No, I just don't know why I get hyper cheese all of a sudden. That's very odd. It's a very specific hyper effect. Right. Oh God, there's the otter. I look at my other screen to start like the backup recording, and all I see is an otter with laser eyes go from this screen across because I have OBS above me, and it's like it managed to sync itself, so it actually starts on this screen and went across, and I was like, oh God.
The term of "oh God, it's the otter" is something I did not expect to hear tonight.
I don't know if she's even here right now. She had a migraine earlier. That's Orchid's emote. But you ready to go, Blue?
Yes.
All right. Let's do this.
The backup going. Working that. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on August 21st, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the lore of Mars. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the Termino actress, green-eyed music lover. Hi.
and last but definitely not in the least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Sentinel Gray. Gray, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Blue?
I'm awake. I have survived the week. I know
Fair.
that's yeah. But well, actually, now that we have all the intros out of the way real quick, I want to actually shift the focus back over to you. Usually with these sessions, we set aside some time to get to know a little bit more about our guest, and Green is usually the one who leads the charge, so I'm just going to sit back and let her do her thing.
Oh,
So, time to interrogate. I mean, hi, Gray. It's been a few days. How are you?
I am okay. I hope you are good as well.
I am doing very well. Gray and I are actually pretty decent buddies, I'd say. We met in person at Guardian Con through Issacle originally, and have done a few things since. We worked together on special project and background.
Da. Very much
But
so.
yeah, so basic intro question. Where can people find you on the internet if they want to hang out with you?
People can usually find me on Twitter at Sentinel Gray, Gray with an A, not an E. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sentinel Gray, spelled the exact same way. And you can find me on YouTube, spelled the exact same way. So anywhere you look for content or mucking about on the internet, just look up Sentinel Gray.
Yeah, you've been doing mostly Valorant lately, correct?
Yeah, Valorant came out and I caught the bug pretty hard. So I've been shifting my focus over to Valorant, and I've been having a lot of fun. The biggest thing is playing a game like Valorant, it really shows you how what your skill level is as far as like aiming and shooting and stuff with a mouse. So I've been working on trying to improve that. I've actually gone in and I have like a training regimen I do like every day now. I spend like a half hour doing it.
Nice. Do you have like one of those programs that are just like the aiming games or whatever that they have for PC?
Luckily, Valorant comes with a really, really good like training area. So if anybody wants to work on their shot and doesn't want to download a aim trainer from Steam that they think is sketchy or whatever, Valorant has an awesome one in the range that you can use and that I use all the time. So
Nice. So I'm going to shift it back towards Destiny a little bit. I would ask this question. It's kind of a weird one, I think, for you, but we're going to talk a little bit more. What do you do in the Destiny community?
I see myself as a Sherpa. Like, I like to help people. I love to help people do raids or whatever. I actually, before Shadowkeep came out, I had a group of probably about 7 or 8 friends who got back into Destiny all at the same time. So it was basically playing catch up for them for a year of content that they missed. So I ran them through, I think 2 of the raids. I think it was Last Wish and one of the Leviathan raids. I ran all of them through Whisper of the Worm. I ran all of them through 0 Hour, got them all those exotics and everything. And I've done a little bit more with Mal and her team. And just like, one thing that I love doing above all else is helping people. Even like in my Valorant stuff, I want to help people. So Destiny is no different.
I popped into his stream the other day and he immediately was just like, let me teach you about this game. It's like, okay, we're going to learn. It's really cool to watch. It's a kind of a crossover, I would say, between you said Counter-Strike was a really good example, but a lot of the powers remind me of Overwatch because of like the wall that you can have that's like a blinding wall, but in Overwatch it's the Symmetra wall which you can see through still, but it's just some interesting gameplay mechanics there. Second, third question, and wherever we're at this point, when did you become interested in game lore? Like, when did you become interested in the stories? Was it Destiny? Was it something else? Or
now my question to you, do you mean lore as a whole, or do you mean lore specifically Destiny related?
As a whole.
Oh boy. This, I don't know if anybody is going to remember this or know this. A long time ago, there was a series that Lego put out called Bionicle.
Yes.
And they actually had a desktop browser game for you to play called I think it was like the Adventures of Matanui or whatever, where it was basically a point and click game. And you played as this character who went and found all of the, like, we'll just say guardians, like all the big important defenders of this island, and you go out and you find them and everything like that. That was whenever I first got into lore, because I spent so many hours in that game just poring over stuff and looking at things, and like loved the lore of Bionicle. And then that like kind of fleshed into games like Jak and Daxter and Kingdom Hearts. So like for games like that, I'm like hugely interested in lore.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that Bionicle had any lore. I just knew like the basic premise, I guess, of the story with it, but not anything super deep. So it's kind of cool to know that there's a lot more going on in it. When did you actually find yourself interested in Destiny lore? Because I know that it's a not necessarily a fairly new interest, but there's very specific things that you seem to be interested in. Because you and I had conversations back at Guardian Con, just me spouting off lore at you and you asking all sorts of questions.
Yeah, the interest in Destiny's lore actually came whenever the game was first announced, because one of the things that they talked about was like, the lore in this game, or like the world in this game, is going to be equivalent to Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. And I am a huge Star Wars fan. And I'm like, if you're going to give me as big of a world as Star Wars to play in, deal. It took me a very long time, longer than I'd care to admit, to like actually get settled in with the lore. But it was basically there was a way that I thought that it seemed like they were using cop-outs to me, where in all actuality it was just like, hey, we're still writing as we're going and everything like that, which now I can fully understand, but beforehand I was like, why are you doing this? This makes no sense. So recently I've been more invested, I guess you can say, in the lore of Destiny, and willing to like let things go no matter if they like seem right or whatever. Because I know there's some inconsistencies between D1 and D2, but it's
Sure.
like you're going to have that with what they have to deal with. So,
Is there a particular story that you like more than others, or?
there are two, and in my personal opinion, they are the best written stories in Destiny by far. Then again, I'm not as into the lore as you or Blue are, so you guys may have different opinions. The Last Word story, the whole entire thing, and the most recent Fellwinter story.
Yeah, both of those are excellent.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, those, like, I would love both of those if they were either a main quest line or a side quest line that we can actually play through. Like, if we got something that good as a quest that we can go through, I'd probably like just die of excitement. But yeah, those are my two favorites.
Yeah, John did an excellent job when he wrote the Last Word story. And who was the one who wrote Fellwinter Blue? Do you remember? Was that also John?
No, I don't think that one was John. I want to say Jill, but I don't think that was Jill. I think
her last one was the Leviathan thing.
Yeah, her last big thing was the Chronicon.
Fanfic.
That's what it is.
I don't know. I don't remember. I can't remember exactly. Hang on, I can look real quick while you guys talk. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
No, I think I have that written somewhere. Let us see.
Yes. So just to kind of move on real quick, I know what class you play primarily. Do you want to share that with the rest of the class?
Well, I mean, my name is Sentinel Gray, so I am a Titan main. I do main Sentinel class, and if you want to get really specific as far as like really subclass what tree, I absolutely love Code of the Commander, and I think it is probably the most slept on Titan class in all of Destiny. The only reason why I say that is because you can be a one-man ad clearing machine with just one grenade and just watch all of the detonations proc and everything like that. Yeah, I've done some crazy stuff with one single grenade. There are a few people in chat that can attest to that.
Is that middle tree? I don't know which tree
yes,
branch that is.
That is middle tree, yes.
Okay. That Sentinels, okay, so I have a small beef with Sentinel Titans and Crucible in particular.
Is it the suppression grenade?
It's not the suppression grenade. I'm totally fine with it. That seems fair to me. Like, okay. It's a super shutdown. It's a make everybody's day a little less happy. I get that. I'm a tether main. I totally get that. It's literally the fact that the shield, you can bounce it off the wall so easily and it'll track a little harder than some of the other super things do. And it's just like, I could be around a corner and get knocked in the face by a shield. It's like,
Well, my fair lady, you have been fighting against the right Titans, apparently, because my shield definitely does not do that. I've only had it happen like a few times to where my shields bounced perfectly, and I ended up getting a seventh pillar out of it. What is it? Seventh pillar? Something called?
Yeah.
So like, it's only been one time to where I've had everything work out in my favor, and it just like it was amazing.
Dang. Yeah. No. It's just I could not get a seventh column or anything like that with a tether. It's not how that super works. But with the Sentinel shield, that's pretty amazing. I've not ran it ever when I have run Titan, which has been a while, but I should give it a go. Let's though talk about something that you have not mentioned that you do as part of the community. You are, I believe, assistant director. Is that your title?
Yes.
Termino?
Yes.
So let's talk about Termino. What is Termino, if our listeners don't remember from when I've bragged about it in the past?
So for those of you who do not know, Termino is a Destiny Machinima series that is in development with the creator Isacle and a bunch, like a team of like wonderful, super talented people. I am not only assistant director, but I also am a voice actor in the series. So along with directing stuff, I also have to watch how I do my own voice stuff.
I'm trying to think of what we can actually talk about in it. We're preloading all the episodes. So if you're going to go look for episodes, they're not out yet. We're basically recording the entire season right now. We're up to episode 5 is in pre-production right now. Voice actors are getting ready to start their thing, and then we have to go through modelers and video cap and all this other kind of crazy stuff.
Yep.
The goal right now, I know, is to finish season 1, which I believe there are 7 episodes before November.
Yeah, I think that's the date where we're trying to hit, or the area we're trying to hit.
Right, because of some of the things going to the vault. It's actually kind of messing up a little bit of our screen captures and everything for everybody else, because a lot of the locations we're using in game are going to be disappearing.
Yeah. Luckily, Bungie gave us an extension.
Yeah, no kidding. It was a real scary time for a little while there. Poor Cole's writing things as fast as she can, and everything else has just gone super, super crazy. But
Yeah.
can we talk about which characters we are? Not necessarily who they are in the story, but maybe just a name call out for the character, or do you want to keep that one under wraps? I'm going to leave that at your discretion.
I do believe I can say, because I voiced 2 characters, I do believe I can say one of the characters that I'm playing. The other one, not so much. For those of you who may have already, the trailer for Termino is already on YouTube, so you can find that. I actually do the voice for, I do the monologue for the trailer. So, and that I so badly want to re-record that.
I liked it. That trailer was so clean.
There was things in it that I was sitting there. I'm like, I should have done that differently. Should have done that differently. All right.
Yeah,
but
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think I'll get in trouble for this. God, if I do get in trouble for this, Isa, I'm sorry. I am playing a character named Gage. You will see him a good bit. And actually, I will say this about how Isa's been writing this. All of the characters in Termino, you are going to see like in pretty equal parts.
Yeah,
I don't think
everyone's got a lot of airtime.
Yeah, I don't think there's one character who's like beyond the characters that are supposed to be secret. I don't think there's one character in there that like doesn't have a lot of screen time. Like all the characters have a ton of screen time.
Mm-hmm. All of the main ones. She's writing it. I don't think there's any secret in the fact that she's writing it for groups of fire teams, essentially. So there's a lot of voice actors in the cast, as well as the antagonist that go along with it. Which, yeah, that one we can't talk about, unfortunately. No. But I will say that I play a character who is slightly evil. Can we say that?
I think we can. I mean,
it's already out of the bag.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, you already said it. So, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, you didn't do any name or anything like that. So I think we're good. I think we're okay.
Yeah. It's been fun.
I will say one thing though, is at least to put it out there in the ether, for as far as shooting a machinima goes, Destiny is not the easiest to do it in the world. And one of the biggest pains, which would have probably made it a whole hell of a lot easier, is being technical. In Crucible matches, you know how if you wait a certain amount of time, you put your gun down to your side or like down to your chest or whatever? That doesn't happen in Crucible. So if it did, it would make everything a whole hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
big shout out to our cameraman though. Wall is amazing at capturing
yeah.
shots. He's a warlock on PC who he's got such a good eye and he's so smooth with his camera. He was actually practicing with us tonight when we were in playing PC on Crucible and everything. I kept accidentally killing him because I see a warlock in the air, I'm going to shoot it. But he's really good. Some of the different shots I've seen him do and some of the things they have planned are very cinematic, and it's kind of amazing that he can pull that kind of stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
But final thoughts about Termino before I kind of kick it back over to announcements. Do you have any final things you want to say about the show or the creation or anything before we kind of get back into the focus?
Ooh, I actually do. I do have one thing. I don't exactly know 100% details, but this is something that I might want to say.
Okay.
First of all, it's gonna be awesome. So don't even question that. I mean, come on now, it's gonna be great. But the other thing is, hold on, let me see if I have a date for it. I'm so sorry.
Is it the stream?
Yes.
September 14th.
Okay. Yes. We are going to be having a kind of behind the scenes look with Termino, and what'd you say, September 14th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On September 14th. For those of you who are interested, keep an eye out on Isacol's Twitter, probably my Twitter, Green's Twitter, anybody who's involved with the project. Just keep an eye on their Twitter, and we will most likely have a link with more information telling you when and where you can watch it and what all we're going to do. I know I am a part of that, and a few of the other people in the group are a part of that as well. So if you want to know more information or want to see maybe some like screenshots or maybe like a clip or two, you can be on the lookout for that.
I think they're planning on showing a few clips. I know Star was talking about it a little bit earlier. It's pretty exciting. There's some really cool stuff that's going to be coming out with that. So with that, let's kick it back over to Blue real quick and do announcements before we jump into the meat of it. After the announcements, we'll hit a quick ad break, and then we'll get right into the lore of Mars since it is going away.
I just really want to take a moment for announcements, I guess. Just the standard, reminder, hey, visit the Lore Network site, which is www.thelorenetwork.com, and let us, let us know your thoughts on the weekly lore roundups. We are still doing those 2 times a week, so we scrape together all of the members of the Lore Network, whether they be podcast or YouTube videos. We'll do podcasts on Wednesdays, so pretty much every podcast that came out that past week, we try to capture and put on there. And then YouTube videos we do every Friday, so same concept. Every YouTube video for that past week, we just kind of try to get them all in one space so that it's just a little bit easier for everyone to find them. Also, just a general reminder, if you haven't already, we'd really appreciate a review over on iTunes. And also, if you don't have time to do it for more than one, definitely focus on the Destiny Lore audio file. We want to get Green as many good reviews or as many reviews as possible. I mean, obviously, I think 5 stars is the minimum that you should give her, but anything always helps. The reason why is with new podcast launches, the quicker and the more reviews that you can accumulate, the faster the logarithm that iTunes runs in the background to notice that submission, the bigger of a target your submissions become. So that's what we're just trying to work within the system to kind of get that going.
Speaking of Destiny Lore audio file, just real quick, we have already hit 200 listens in the first 2.5 weeks, not even full 3 weeks. So we have 3 episodes out and we've already hit 200 listens and continuing to actually grow a little bit. So I'm excited. I'm happy you guys are enjoying it. You're consuming it more than just once. And I appreciate that. more than you know. But let's go ahead and go to a quick ad break real quick before we jump into the main meat of the topic about Mars. And we're back. Welcome back. Gray, Mars, the planet, the god of war. We're going to talk about in-game description and what we have from the grimoire itself. Would you like to kind of lead us in that?
Yeah, I could do that. In the sand-swept carcass of a lost city, dark forces gather for war.
So that's actually from the in-game description, I believe for D2, not necessarily in D1. And we'll talk about more of what that means here in a little bit. But from the grimoire, we have...
In the years since the collapse, much of Mars has returned to the desolation that came before the traveler. But buried beneath its surface are traces of glimmering megacities that once sprawled across the planet, swallowed by dunes and darkness.
And then megacities here is a reference to the known hubs based on the red planets such as Freehold, Meridian Bay, and other Clovis Bray assets / facilities, including the building that we use for Meltdown in Crucible, which is going away, I believe, unfortunately. Blue, you want to do the reality check moment, though?
So just as with a lot of the world lores, I find this is a cool opportunity to kind of dive into actual scientific facts. So just for Mars is the 4th planet from the sun. It is actually the 2nd smallest in the entire solar system. The smallest is Mercury. The source of its nickname, the Red Planet, is the effect of the iron oxide, which comprises the planet's surface, so that reddish appearance is distinctive even to the naked eye of observers. This being said, the planet does actually host a thin atmosphere with temperatures similar to that of our own moon or some of the more extreme remote Earth or areas on Earth, so things such as valleys, deserts, and polar ice caps. Martian Days, I know that's kind of been a constant for all the other ones that I've been doing, so I figured I'd do it for Mars as well. So Martian Days are very close to our own Terran days. They actually clock in at 24 hours and 39 to 40 minutes. So there's a little bit of variance there, but I mean, it's within an hour basically. However, the Martian year is significantly longer, and the reason for this is that a single orbit around the sun for Mars will take the red planet 687 Terran days, which is nearly twice the amount of time that Earth takes. And that is because it is nearly 230 million kilometers, or for those of us in the uneducated pieces of the world, 143 million miles, as compared to the... I nearly got it. As compared to the 150 million kilometers or 93 million miles that Earth sits at. So that's why it's got a bit further to go. Speaking of that, though, going further down the loophole of similarities, gravity on Mars is actually very different. It is about 38% of what we experience here. The reason why is the planet is extremely less dense than our own. Mars has about 15% of Earth's volume and only 11% of Earth's mass. So that kind of brings me back to the atmosphere. While there is technically an atmosphere present, the lack of a magnetosphere means that solar winds basically interact directly with the ionosphere. So what that means is that not having a magnetosphere, every time the solar winds comes across the planet, it actually rips part of the atmosphere away. So that's why you have extremely low atmospheric density. So the highest atmospheric density that we are aware of on the Martian surface would be equivalent to the atmosphere we would experience at 35 kilometers or 22 miles above Earth's surface, which is quite comfortably within the stratosphere, which is about where planes usually fly. So seasons on the red planet would be actually really familiar with us, because the red planet is actually tilted in a very similar pattern to our own. However, as you might guess, the length of these seasons is roughly twice that of our own, again, due to the greater distance from the sun. So your temperatures range from a low point of about, a negative 140 degrees Celsius, or, balmy negative 225 degrees Fahrenheit at the polar caps. So the winter polar caps have really cold, to a high of 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit around the equator during the summers. So it's temperature-wise, it's actually comparable. Mars has 2 satellite moons, Phobos and Deimos. They are named after the sons of Ares or Mars in mythology. And my personal favorite part about this is like the actual translation of the names. The names respectively translate into panic or fear and terror or dread. And that was because in mythology, Ares, the god of war, his sons would always accompany him onto the battlefield. And that was the way that in mythology they would explain the sensation of warriors in battle. You would always have that panic and fear, that terror and the dread, the adrenaline rush. Both of the moons were discovered in 1877 by Asaph Hall and are actually thought to have originally been asteroids that the planet actually snagged and captured a long time ago, but that is currently just a theory.
You know what? Every time you say Phobos and Deimos, it reminds me not only of Anna Bray's ghost and her little mites that show up in the lore,
Love
but
those
also...
things. Don't you want to leave those? No, I love my mites.
I love my mites. But also, it reminds me, here's our Disney reference for the episode. It reminds me of the Hercules TV show.
Yes.
Because there was panic and...
Pain and Panic. Yes.
Pain and Panic. Which were the Disney versions.
Oh, yeah, we made him drink the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
Every last drop.
Every last drop. Yeah, no. Missed a spot, but gosh.
Great combination of Achilles and Hercules there. But anyways, moving on.
So the lore entries that are available for Mars / lore books, there's not really any books tied to Mars, unfortunately. There are quite a few lore entries, primarily coming out with the Warmind expansion back in, was that year 2 of D2 when Warmind came out?
Yes.
But there's honestly not necessarily a cohesive story gathered together. There's a lot of stuff related to Clovis Bray in particular, but the majority of the story on Mars is actually in its scannables, which we'll get to a little bit later, and it's dealing with the Concierge Ai in particular. We'll get a lot of his stuff here at the end.
The Fry Files.
The Fry Files. I love him. Stephen Fry is amazing. But beyond that, we have a couple of important figures on Mars itself. We have Rasputin, and then we have Anna Bray, of course, as the vendor. But then there's also some that are just kind of tertiary characters that come up primarily in lore, as in Elsie, Willa, Clovis, and Clovis Jr. And then back in D1, we did have Holborn's Host, which doesn't really super matter now. Just Mars, it was just one of my favorite lines back in D1 with Holborn's Host talking to the ghost that's going by, and he's just all jolly and just tight-knee.
Real quick, chat mentioned this, and I just looked this up as well. Warmind actually was the tail end of year 1. So Destiny 2 came out on September 8th, 2017. Warmind went live May 8th, 2018. So it was it's right in the but it actually ended. So Warmind came to a conclusion on September 4th. So it kind of started. Gotcha. The first thing in year 2 was Forsaken.
Gotcha.
So this was season 3, or in the whole scope, season 10 of the entire Destiny series. But of Destiny 2, this was season 3.
So this was the summer season that year.
Yes, that would be correct, of 2018.
Cool. So we have a few different locations on Mars itself. The primary base locations where you spawn in are Braytech Braytech Futurescape, as well as the Glacial Drift on the opposite side. Within the Braytech Futurescape, you have Alton Dynamo, Hellas View, Aurora Reach, Mind Lab, Rasputin, and then the Lost Sector Core Terminus. And then in Glacial Drift, you have Dynamo Approach, Olympus Descent, Penumbral Depths, and then the Lost Sector, and I never say this right, Ma'adim Subterrane. And then there's a few Crucible maps tied to Mars as well. Solitude and Meltdown in particular, which I know Meltdown is going away. I cannot remember if Solitude is. Fun note we got with the TWAB this week. We found out that not all Crucible maps or Gambit maps related to the specific planets are disappearing at launch. It's actually, they're doing kind of a best of list. And the ones that they're getting rid of that are pretty easy to remember is they're getting rid of the trial or the Nines map. So Eternity's going away. Equinox is also going away. They're also getting rid of Callus's Gardens map that is really annoying and hasn't been in rotation in months in general anyway. But there's a few, I know Meltdown's going away, and a few other maps that are related to certain planets. But beyond that, Dreaming City maps are going away, which is kind of sad. I liked those. But let's move on to planetary items. And I think because we have a fairly decent representation here this time, I'm going to break it up and have Blue read the Hunter stuff. I'll go over the Warlock stuff, and we'll let Gray take care of the Titan stuff since he's playing Titan. So, Blue, you want to...
Yeah, let me actually pull this up for chat real quick. If I can. Apparently, I can't do that. So, let me...
search for...
I got
the... Snow Mask, or...
There it is. Ba-da-boo. All right, so let me scroll so everyone can read along with us. So this is the Hunter Snow Mask, the Braytech Snow Mask. Flavor text is, "This is our best work yet," and that is from a project manager at Braytech R&D. Do we want to read the full entry, do you think, or how do you feel? How do you guys feel?
They're fairly short.
Yeah, these are...
you guys.
What are you thinking, Green? How do you think we'll manage on time? You think we can knock them out pretty quick?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. All right, so this is basically, most of these are going to be like, or most of the Hunter ones at least that I remember are basically emails, internal emails. So this one is to W.I. Bray, Willa Bray, basically, carbon copied CB leadership and A.T. Von, quarter update. All right, some business emails. Let's get into it. So the subject is, new Arctic line is on track to hit milestone silver. Current risks lie with key priority 1 issues with the Snow Tread's design, but we've recently requested additional resources to mitigate that. I've spoken with the head engineer, and she's confident we will deliver on schedule. This is one of the strongest teams we've put together, and so far the results have been outstanding. The mask in particular received high praise for extreme clarity and an overall positive user evaluation. Individual lead notes are attached. No, reply all. So, don't spam people now.
I like how everyone's just like, even in space in the future, they're like, don't hit reply all.
Oh my god, man!
To this message,
man. And the reason why I'm gonna go out on a limb is that CB leadership. That's not a single person. That's a distribution list. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who's not in live stream right now, you can't see it, but there is an actual difference. There's usernames and then there's CB leadership. So they don't want to bug Mr. Bray with their little, but did you get the blah, blah, blah? Yeah, no. What are you guys doing for lunch?
Yeah. How does
Who brought the donuts?
Everybody today?
Who brought the donuts?
Yes.
Did you remember the pineapples?
Memes. Oh my gosh. I had a revelation about the pineapple joke.
I love this revelation. This explains why they are all obsessed with mint chocolate chip, though.
Yeah, I have no idea with that one. So we were talking the other day about Eris Morn's obsession with pineapple because she talks about pineapple a lot in the new book that came out. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. It's not Duress and Egress. It's the other one. But
Singular Exegete.
thank you. She talks about it all the frickin' time. And it's like, what? Like, there was a joke on Titan about this pineapple. Bungie got rid of the pineapple on pizza debate by basically making pineapples unknown. You can still get them.
They
Eris
just wrote
grows them.
They just wrote it out of the galaxy. They're
They
just
just
like
wrote it out of the galaxy. It's like, okay, Bungie, well played. Well played.
You win this entire game.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's so good. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Researcher's Hood, which is the Warlock helmet. As a few of you know, I have dabbled in playing Warlock recently, so I'm going to read the Warlock card. And the flavor text says, featuring the latest in autocorrecting lens technology. And this is a Braytech internal memo. There's not a directive on where it's going or anything like that. It's just a memo. And it says, quote, 36 field units have been equipped with the new adaptive lens polarization system, ALPS. This version of ALPS leverages the eye tracking target acquisition algorithm present in some of our scout and tactical units. This integration allows for near instantaneous adjustment based on head position, ocular focal depth, and the light's angle of incident. Which doesn't surprise me considering what we know of Anna Bray's ability with her eyes. They have something like this available within the Warlock helmet itself. Kind of cool. Gray, you want to grab the Titan one for us?
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to do it in a Russian accent? Kind of get a little Rasputin vibe in there or no?
Yeah, why not? You read how you like to best read. Oh.
All right, this is for the Titan Braytech Snow Helm. Great for avoiding a brain freeze. The perfect way to avoid a brain freeze. Our scouts have the problem with their helmets fogging up. There's nothing worse than trying to scan a unique mineral deposit out in the storm and getting a face full of fog. With those new snow helms, we've installed thermal piping and a bunch of moisture regulators. This way, we'll always be able to keep cool heads in the field. Just not literally. Fabrication engineer, Braytech R&D.
I just
Now
love
I kinda-
the little sides. Just not literally.
Yeah. Gosh, I just want there to be an actual like Russian division within Braytech now. Just reporting over.
They're
being like,
responsible with the language, like actual Rasputin speaking Russian.
oh gosh. Yeah, I want to know why they went that route with that specifically. Like what if there's anything specific within the Russian language that makes it more adaptable or
No, it's because Mihalova was Russian.
Right, but
She
was
wrote
she
the
just
base. She wrote the
she
base
wrote the-
code for R, and that's what
Okay.
became Rasputin. So Mihalova was always kind of like the progenitor. Anna didn't get brought in until after the Ares 1 thing.
right.
And she was responsible for like basically, if you want to kind of like child psychology it, she was the one who nurtured R into becoming Rasputin by teaching him all the languages and stuff. But I would strongly argue that a lot of his base code is probably
Still the same.
is still Russian. Like it was written in Russian by a Russian scientist. Because that was the whole thing with Mihalova was she was all upset because they packed up her lab and sent her from I think was it Moscow that she was at because she was at the university.
Mm-hmm. Back in the Ares 1 logs.
Yeah. When they conscripted her,
Right.
Because her boss basically kicked her out. Which was one of the best entries reading from her is like you get such a good sense of her character. They're like, no, get out.
Yes. Why are they always so pushy? Blue. You want to go to the chess piece?
Yeah, so this is going to be the Braytech Combat Vest. Let me pull that up. I got that up on stream for everybody. In this one, the flavor text is Agility, Protection. I have always subscribed to the idea that armor is useless without both. And that is a quote from the lead engineer of Braytech R&D. Excuse me. All right, so the actual text, this is not an email, sadly. This is just a blurb. It says, armor is the inherent struggle between freedom and protection, and it has been since the dawn of humanity. The natural conclusion of elementary physics is such that resilience is the enemy of mobility. But now, we are pioneers in a nascent world of discovery, where we can abrogate the laws of old physics and widen the breadth of engineering design space. My colleagues at Clovis Bray and I are excited to embark upon this project. We intend to enhance the efficacy of our line of protective armor and bring you the level of quality you expect from the Bray name. Nice.
I like how in some of these we get some really interesting little tidbits of lore, and then some of them it's just like, it's there.
I mean, I read that completely as a sales pitch.
Yeah. The Warlock robes, the Braytech researchers robes. This one actually is kind of neat because
there's
the flavor text is spot on, but there's also the aspect that this was actually this was made for researchers in particular. It wasn't necessarily Warlock gear. It was made for researchers. And it says, flavor text, and I quote, I tend to work better while not freezing to death. Most of us do. The in-depth actual aspect of the card says, the fabrication laboratory has created a new synthetic for the lining of the researcher gear. Many of the field researchers have noted that the equipment provided during the last cycle is grossly inadequate at providing necessary elemental protection, and the models with the new lining hope to mitigate this. MedLab also echoes concern, hoping the new models reduce the amount of frostbite they've been treating. Fabrication specialist, Braytech R&D. So they didn't plan for everything when they first started this.
They didn't say how much, like a percentage of how much they would reduce frostbite. That's the scary part.
They're learning as they go. Better to have frostbite than to go crazy.
Right. But I mean, also the thing too is they're trying, like it says, they mentioned a new synthetic. So they're pushing, I mean, prototypes have downsides, I guess would be the easiest way of saying that. We think this will work. It didn't work.
We're going to give it a shot.
Well, let's see how the Titans fared.
This one is Braytech Ironheart Engine. And the flavor text is, the air is cold, but our hearts are warm. Do not fear the cold. Become the flame. Your heart beats true, driving the warmth of courage through your veins. Blaze on and know victory enduring, lighting the path for your brothers and sisters. Martian Polar Credo.
So, is it fair to say that this is more of the, not necessarily the military aspect, but I don't know, like it's very Titan-esque for sure, but the flavor text and the lore itself, like
I took it as the field researchers. Like there's difference between a true like lab research and then the guys who actually are guys and gals, sorry, that go out into the field. Like I mean, if you look at the, you know, a clearer example is the scientists who actually go to Antarctica versus the scientists who study it remotely. You know, like there's a there's a difference there. The one has to actually go into the and since it's the Martian Polar Credo, I kind of took this as like maybe this is the early. I don't want to say early because I don't really know where in the timeline it fits, but like the sense that I got from this was like the explorers who like, you know, took the ships and punched through the ice at the caps, you know, here on Earth, and like kind of led the charge in discovering that particular geography for us to then go into and, you know, build base camp or, you know, whatever. That's how I kind of read that particular one. I don't know. I can see it. I can also see that military-esque thing being somewhat true, because we do know, I mean, Clovis Bray is ingrained with military as well, so that would not, for me, be a huge leap either.
It would, my guess is it would probably be something of like, depending on when this armor came out, as far as timeline goes. If it came out relatively early in Mars's colonization or whatever, this could have been looked at as like you might need protection from Martian polar bears, so here you go.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because Clovis Bray kind of has a tendency to go find, I don't know, alien life forms and reverse engineer things off of them. So I know it's kind of I know you're kind of joking with the thing, but I mean, Mars does have, I don't know, a huge number of possible points of alien contact. Hive? Well, the frozen hive didn't come until after Rasputin was seated there, because that's when he froze them, if I remember that correctly. I'm stretching my memory on that one a bit, but like, yeah, and the Wicked's saying that, yeah, Waylon. I'm just saying, I mean, it's not a polar
not a
worm
stretch.
god, polar hives and polar worm god.
It's chilly out there for the hive.
Yeah, apparently they're cold-blooded.
Just a bit. Blue, you wanna? I don't know how to.
Yeah, there's no segue.
Go.
There's no segue. That
Go.
I'm just. This one is the Braytech survival mitts. This is another really fun one. Its flavor text is: stand over there or stand over here. Stick your arm out. Yes, perfect. Okay, just hold still. Quote from production lead Braytech R&D. I'm sorry, but I can't help but read that as, I can't remember the title of the movie, but it's the one where it's Bruce Willis and he's testing the sniper rifle, and he has the guy with the lighter, and he ends up shooting the guy's arm off. Because it's a 50 caliber sniper. I mean, it's like a huge caliber sniper rifle. And he's like, yeah, see, it's only, because he was like, it's only, I can't remember, like millimeters off or something like that. The Jackal. Thank you, Pens. Yeah, he shot Jack Black. So.
Oh gosh.
It was
that okay. I'm not sad about that.
It was one of the.
Love Jack Black, but no.
Oh no! Like gosh, that scene was, because the entire thing was, he was like, oh, it's just a little off, and he's like, okay, go stand. And this is like, it's exactly what he was saying. He's like, go stand, go, keep going. All right, stick your arm out. Okay, just hold still. And he's like, because he was gonna shoot the little lighter thing. Yeah, Russian anti-aircraft weapon. Thank you, Pens.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god!
Because he was like, it's just a little off, and he's like, he basically just proved the point that just a little off at a certain distance becomes a lot off. But so yes, that's the mental image. So you're all welcome for that mental image.
This is a reference to that. Once you read that, it actually references a very similar event.
Oh, okay, but he only sustained minor bruising. Okay, see, this is why I should probably not talk about my mental images until I'm done reading the full thing. So the actual entry is feedback from field session 177. This is just basically a bullet point list. Thermal conservation tech, quote, felt good, end quote, over a 7-hour session. Micro mesh webbing had minor grading on users' wrists, consistent across multiple test subjects. 3 centimeter, 1 centimeter, and 5 millimeter grip tests successful. User shouted explicitive during high caliber round tests, but only sustained minor bruising. Fair enough. All right. So
that is amazing that this is literally a reference to the Jackal.
I wish I had read that first, but I honestly did not remember that. But I just like the flavor text is exactly the mental image. Is I can see that scene, and it's I need to go watch the Jackal again.
Also, at the same time, the sniper rifle for this DLC is called the Frigid Jackal.
Ha
perfect. Bungie, I love
clever. Clever. All right. Researcher's gloves for the Warlock. Warm hands, warm heart. The
Aw.
researchers back at the lab have really outdone themselves. These might be the best gloves I've ever worn. Way better than the ones issued last cycle. I can finally work out there without my fingers growing numb. I have to send the research team a fruit basket or something.
Pineapples.
Field technician. Yeah, I mean, pineapples were probably still a thing there, or kiwi cucumbers,
cucumbers. That was the other one.
But yeah, that's from a field tech. Nothing super, super crazy. Just slowly, they're getting better at what they're doing. Grips from the Titan.
Braytech thermal grips. You think this is cold? You have no idea. Most of our scientists here aren't accustomed to the cold. Me, I grew up way up north, so this thing is nothing new. But, being a respectable researcher, I put a lot of thought into coming up with a solution. The new thermal grips will keep even the most cold-blooded would-be adventurer warm, and provide a nice boost to muscular performance. Also, great for throwing snowballs. Head researcher, Braytech R&D.
Snowball fights must have been epic.
From a Titan, you're gonna die.
Grips.
Oh, that one had a rock in it. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
We're going to find out, too, that the snow on Mars is not created equal, too, here coming up pretty soon. That makes it even more treacherous once you find out what they're throwing. Blue.
You're talking about the Braytech snow treads. All right, so this one is flavor text says, piecing together complex systems of causalities is the puzzle that defined me. Elsie Bray. It's not a surprise at all, Elsie. All right, so this is, it looks like a conversation. First person is, Elsie's here from Weapons R&D to lend us a hand. She'll be taking over the project until the next milestone and hopefully get rid of our little jamming problem in the treads. Elsie, as in Elsie Bray? You know another Elsie? No, well, she's basically an engineering legend around here. You're a professional, not some fanboy. Do what she says and use this opportunity to learn. Right, of course. Any other questions? Does my hair look okay? Get out of my office.
I like how she's such a legend even at this point that they're like, oh my God, I get to work with Elsie. It's so nice. Okay.
Well, because I
Researcher's
think
boots.
I can't remember though Elsie's jump ship. It's the exotic ship from I think it was from season 3 when they brought it back. But I can't remember if that's actually the ship. It is, because it's the ship that Elsie rebuilt from basically scratch. The one that has half the wing that's been blown off. I can't remember it, even though it's the ship that I have equipped.
Drives me crazy.
I love it because you get to see the electric currents. You're like, this is gonna fall apart at any point in time.
My life is in your hands.
Yeah. Hope you made it. Hope you made it good.
Yeah. Trust in Elsie. What could go wrong?
No, she's no stranger.
Yeah, there it is.
Won't be soon.
I'm gonna get hate mail from Manon now.
It's fine. It's fine. All right. Warlock researcher boots. Snow is snow. Is snow, right? The cold might not be the biggest danger out here. How so? These cliffs get a fair amount of grapple, which is bad news. Grapple? Right. So all snow isn't created equal. Grapple is like snowflake-sized hail because it's denser and has a higher viscosity. When you layer it under regular snow, the chances of an avalanche increase exponentially. So how do we deal with it? Keep quiet and walk lightly. Braytech recon log. So grapple is actually a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a German word for exactly what they said, just basically small hail.
It's like a rhyme-ish looking thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't help with how that lore card contradicts with the look and size of the snow boots for the Titan.
Yeah.
Because the
Wait,
snow
you mean
boots,
the Titan snow boots don't walk lightly?
well, I mean, if you look at them, they're probably some of the thicker boots in the game.
Those boots are thick.
Oh
Damn
my.
thick.
We'll talk about those thick legs of yours. Wait, what?
Really kick Rikoto in chat. It's Shadow Trespasses to ship. Thank you for that one.
Nice. All right, let's see here. Non-slip techno threads for maximum Arctic mobility. Me and the others got to take the new snow treads out for a test drive today. We were in cheeky mood, so we decided to have a race. Things were going well until Willems cracked the glacier. These threads step heavy. Luckily, they handled great on ice, and we were able to rappel down to save him. The only thing is, he really hurt. The only thing he really hurt was his pride. Goddamn. But like the engineers said, great in ice and snow. A real pair of lifesavers. Intern, Braytech R&D.
So the warlocks tread lightly like Legolas, and then the Titans are just like meh, 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 everywhere.
What's funny is if you're in the right snow, that's exactly the sound they would make.
Uh-huh. And I mean, they have spikes on the bottom of them. Like, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're.
That way, if they cause an avalanche, they're not going to join in with it.
Well,
I'm just
imagine
thinking
that this is Trials finisher.
Oh! Fate.
Yeah, it makes that hurt a lot more, huh?
Oh, spikes to the face. Yeah, no. They're also super heavy looking. Like, they're not dainty at all.
That's what I'm saying. They're thick.
Oh, man. All right, Blue.
Braytech
Finish us
Winter
up.
Cloak. So the flavor text here is, not every piece of equipment is optimal for all environments. You see snow, I see 1,000 hiding places. Quote from designer Braytech R&D, aka Future Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So the text in this one is, it's a local legend that ghostly apparitions dwell in the mountains of the Hellas regions. Based on multiple accounts, they're pale white and blend with the snow. All you can see is a floating set of eyes and a mouth smiling all creepy-like. Ever since Clovis Bray set up shop, the sightings have dropped sharply, but every now and then someone claims to see one of these phantom figures.
Do we have any idea what that's referring to?
So I was just listening to, I think it was the Lore podcast by Aaron Mankey, and he actually made a comment that really actually just, this makes me think of it. He was talking about no matter what humans do, like no matter what time period you look at, there's always superstitions. Like there's always a mythological monster or a hero, or there's Bigfoot. There's always something out there in the unknown. It's kind of like how humans' psyche deals with the unknown. It's one of those things, because we are at our core pack animals, and so when we have something that is outside of our experience, it translates into that fight or flight mechanism, and in a lot of times, in a social sense, that will translate into a superstition. So you have like urban legends and stuff like that. That's really what this reminds me of. Is like, it doesn't, to me, it could be like a proto hive or something, because we have the frozen thrall that are running around and all that. But I actually took it more as like, this is just humans bringing their superstition to a new planet, is how I kind of read that. It's the Martian Yeti, basically.
Interesting. Speaking of like possible things to come up against in the Martian area, the Warlock Bond actually has me super worried. Because, well, you'll see. So the Warlock Bond it's called the Researcher's Bond. Flavor text says, keeping our greatest minds safe and warm. And the interior text says, We've decided to experiment with moving the main control unit from the bodysuit onto an attachable armlet. Since all of the other elements of the suit allow for equal bidirectional data transmission, modification to the architecture of accompanying elements should prove minimal. This will free our users to be more mobile and not be concerned about damaging the main unit while taking fire. Early testing notes a marked improvement in user satisfaction. Braytech internal memo. Who are they getting shot by?
Martian polar bears. Got it.
I mean, yeah, something's shooting at them, or they're shooting at each other. What, like, that's something I never caught in this. Like, who is firing on them? Blue's just laughing because of Martian polar bears.
No, we're talking about Hive and how they have boots with the fur.
Oh, jeez.
The pineapple bottom jeans.
I
That
swear,
is
if
gonna
I
be
see a
some-
Hive with some apple bottom jeans, I'm going to lose my mind.
I
Hoofs
saw a
with the
baby
fur.
Hive with a hoodie. The whole club was looking at her or Zur.
Look at that, sir.
We're gonna write a parody song.
I need to write
now
this
via
shit
show.
down.
Oh my goodness, Pens is head desking. All right.
Oh my god.
Oh, finish us out on the Braytech suit, won't you,
All right.
Bray?
This is for the Braytech Absolute Zero Mark. Easy to spot in a whiteout. On today's expedition, one of our junior researchers got lost for over an hour in a snowstorm. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Bright colors only. We're trying to stay alive out here, not play hide and seek in the snow. She definitely learned her lesson, though, and after a few cups of hot cocoa, her spirits seem to have returned. Project Manager, Braytech R&D.
Yeah, all of the gear except for the Titan mark is light gray or blue or white. What are they doing?
I will say, I don't know if it's this way with the rest of the pieces, but as I was going through here, I'm sitting here in game right now going through them. Whenever you put a shader on any of the Titan pieces, the only thing that does not change is the silver and gold stripe in each of the armor.
Okay.
Every single piece of armor, if there is a silver and gold stripe or anything like that, it does not change whatsoever. The mark is no exception.
Interesting. Braytech, they had some weird stuff going on back then. I think that just proves it. But since we're kind of going a little bit long on things, I'm going to go ahead and do an ad break real quick, and then we'll talk about, maybe not read through it, but talk about the Concierge AI and what it has to say about everything on Mars. So we'll be right back. All right, Blue. I'm going to make you do this part. You ready?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which episode that was.
Where we talked about the Fry files?
I'm trying
Stephen Fry files?
Trying to look them up right now.
I have a quick question. And
Yeah, go for it.
Those of you who are more experienced in lore than I am would definitely know. So you were talking about who was shooting at the researchers.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't one of the things about the Bray Corporation, didn't they have a lot of enemies?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is we don't know if their enemies were like militarized at all. We know that they had competitors that were trying to steal research, but whether or not they actually had altercations like that, I don't know. Blue, can you think of anything?
I mean, it wouldn't. Found it. It wouldn't surprise me because we do know. I mean, so they were at odds with the New Pacific Arcology. However, that all being said, the New Pacific Arcology was a group of pacifists. So obviously, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume they probably weren't shooting at them, just because pacifists don't like doing that. But
Maybe
I
it was the
mean,
people on the moon.
Moon people.
oh my gosh. But I mean, that being said, it is a mention that, the golden age maybe not have been so golden with, inner, because you have other science fiction, titles with similar tropes. You have, what is it, Borderlands with the corporation war there. You have Blade Runner has its own, subterfuges going on. Alien and Predators universe, which has been directly referenced in like Bungie's talking about that out of game. They've referenced the similarities between Clovis Bray and Wayland Yutani. That entire reason for half the shenanigans that go on in that universe is because Wayland's trying to keep ahead of its competitors, and they're not shy in attacking each other. So there's definitely, I think, grounds. Now, we don't know too many of the, I don't think we know any corporations other than Clovis Bray really that were around in the Golden Age definitively. We do have all the weapon foundries, which I know there's a few that you could probably get away with arguing might have been back in the Golden Age, but there's no definitive proof one way or the other.
There was a group that worked together to create the ship that ended up in the Maracena that was not Clovis Bray, because they were part of the Exodus project, but they were the Amrita Charter.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I always took the Amrita Charter as separatist civilians.
Right, but like the ship itself was, I don't think it was the same as the Clovis Bray ship. It had a lot of the same tech, but
you know what that makes me think of is the Expanse with the Belters. And how the Belters built the the ship for the Mormons.
Oh God.
And then stole it. Anyways, but yeah, no, that one, I would be very surprised if there wasn't, corporate espionage, corporate warfare going on. And as you introduce more planets, that's just, if no one's left to report about it, then did it happen? That type of scenario.
I do have one more quick thing. So I ran through it really fast just to see, because I was curious. The Titan set, the Titan Braytech suit, is the only set that has the silver and gold markings on it. The Hunter doesn't have it, and the Warlock doesn't have it. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes.
That's because the Titans wanted everyone to wear fluorescent colors, and the Warlocks were worried about avalanches, and the Hunters just were playing hide and seek. Yep.
That's what it seems like, at least. The Hunters are probably the scouts. The Warlocks were the ones doing the actual research out in the field, and the Titans were tightening. Blue, do we want to get into the Concierge Ai, since there's actually some really cool lore that will probably become important as we get closer to Rasputin being reborn later?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yes, sorry, chat was talking about the Yangle away. Yes, okay, so within what we have started kind of calling the Fry files, which is basically the Concierge Ai, there's basically, within Warmind, this was a early version, a new version of ghost scans for the Mars environment. And you had 28? Did you have 28 Concierge, or was that, because I know there was other...
Scannables total. The Concierge ones are the ones that were the primary ones on Mars. There's a few that are not, but most of them are Concierge files.
7 of them were Concierge files. So yeah, and basically what this AI was exactly that, a Concierge AI from back in the heyday of Clovis Bray. The kind of the sense that we got when you listen to it is basically it's for a tour. It's the best way I can explain it. It's like, at Clovis Bray, we do blah, blah, blah. It's, whenever you're walking through like an aquarium or museum and you're like, it's Jurassic Park-esque voice, or make the world, better place, blah, blah, blah. So the first one that really kind of introduces you to this is the ghost scan from the Braytech Futurescape. And let me pull this up real quick for our live chat people. And really, again, it's just kind of talking about how Clovis Bray is the leading innovator, and it's we're proud to serve you, proud of those of you within our ranks. One of the best parts about this particular scannable is the whole actual interaction with it, because you have to go up to a terminal, and at every end of like a really short little sentence or two, the AI says, "Would you like to know more?" And you basically are prompted to like continue playing. Like it made it more immersive, because you actually got to tell it, "Yeah, I want to hear more about this." And so, and then it's kind of like, you are Clovis Bray, whether you're one of our distinguished top scientists, blah, 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 we welcome you to the family. And yeah, and so that's the whole pep talk for this particular one. The Alton Dynamos, oh my gosh, this one. Alton Dynamos.
This one's about Rasputin.
Mm-hmm. The big one on this one is machines and morality. So let me pull this one up for everyone to get a glimpse at. It's, basically kind of putting a end user polished version of what Clovis Bray is trying to do. And when I say that, I mean really redacted, not actually having a super amount of content from like an actual like explanation of what they're doing, but more of like, it says, within 5 decades, we hope to relinquish full autonomy of our defense network to Rasputin. But can we trust an artificial intelligence to make the moral decision? And I mean, and then it goes on to kind of say, it presents the idea of Asimov's law of robotics, and the concept of a black box decision-making system, or black box morality system. And so basically what the black box morality system is that it is a way for Rasputin to determine morality on its own terms. And by the design, the programmers are blind to that process in order to preserve objectivity in that determination of morality. So basically, in order for us to not influence the decision, we can't know about what goes into the decision. And so it's a really kind of like a really interesting kind of concept. He also brings up a really interesting version of the trolley problem in the second kind of entry here. It says a self-driving car on a collision course that kills 5 people has but one very viable alternative, a new path where one innocent bystander is killed. And so that is the trolley problem. And so that kind of is just so many different tangents that are possible with that one. Then we get the limits of computer science. This is another really good one. Let me pull this one up.
Can I just make a connection between the one you just talked about and the one that you're getting ready to talk about?
Yes,
because
please.
Of the lore that we got at the beginning of this season with Rasputin being reduced into the engram, I find it really fascinating that these two scannables are within the same department, essentially. They're in the same location. They're in Alton Dynamo. Now, they're not in the same room, perchance, but they're within the same division of research within Clovis Bray. Mm-hmm. Just a side note on that one.
Yeah, and this is also a tie back to Dr. Willa Bray's work with... So Mars has some interesting history, actually, with regards to engrams and the development of the technology of engrams. Back in Destiny 1, we had a variation of the, I just blanked out, rust iron, that was commented on, that the crystalline structure of rust iron actually led Dr. Willa Bray into a understanding of solid matter that would allow her to basically do what was needed to create an engram. And that all happened on Mars. So when you talk about, and that's kind of what talking about here is, Clovis Bray, it says, Clovis Bray is pushing the limits of computer science and engineering to secure humanity's future. And then it dives into the specifics on the Warmind project. And so it kind of is talking about like how they're using quantum and engrammatic computing to create a neural network of unprecedented processing power. And so that engrammatic computing is basically a redesign of how they store information based on the crystalline structures that they found within the rust iron on Mars. And that's kind of part of that ability then to create a way of designing a neural network for an artificial intelligence to actually achieve something which is more akin to, like, from Halo, you have your smart AIs and your dumb AIs, you know, colloquial term there because even dumb AIs are geniuses, but like a smart AI is a carbon copy of a human brain. So here you have kind of a different path that gets to roughly the same destination. So he goes on to say at the end of this particular entry that the end goal for this machine is for it to see things in a way that humans cannot, and thus predict and eliminate threats before we know of them. That's a really slippery slope, and I'm not going to go down it because I could probably talk quite a bit about that one.
Right. Can I actually say that we end this episode at the Alton Dynamo before we go through the rest of them? Because I think the rest of them are going to spur some more discussion. Yeah. And so let's go ahead and run through shout outs and kind of closing things for the intro episode before we get out of here. So far, as far as a planet to go, just kind of a closing argument for me, this planet, Mars, does have a lot of lore in it, specifically tied to, obviously, Rasputin. Exos we're going to get into a little bit more in the advanced session, as well as the missions as we get there. But there's a lot of like tiny tidbits all around when it comes to how Clovis Bray functioned as a corporation from the eyes of the actual members and workers of Clovis Bray, which is really neat. And so if you haven't gone through and looked at this lore and don't necessarily know what Clovis Bray is besides the big corporation that's talked about all the time in game, you really ought to look at them a little bit more closely. Blue or Gray, do you have any final thoughts on this before we close it out?
I mean, I have tons of thoughts on this, but
right.
I would say like Clovis Bray is obviously the big gate or the big gatekeeper that is going to show us, I think, a lot of what was going on in the Golden Age. And so, understandably, while the details are pretty sparse, there's still actually quite a bit buried within the details that we do have access to. The biggest challenge for me personally when I read about Clovis Bray is there is a lot of crossing of the streams as far as intelligence and design of technology when it comes to other races. And so trying to figure out, is this just coincidence, or did humans have contact back in the Golden Age with these races and reverse engineer stuff? We know that there has been some contact prior to the Guardians' rise, but kind of seeing where that could lead, what possible consequences of that connection could be, is actually where a lot of the fun theory crafting for the current situation of the technology that we see in Destiny today comes from. Because Clovis Bray was quite often not just towing the cutting line, but actually pushing the line and actually stepping over the line. And some of the ways that they could have possibly achieved those advances are not through
conventional means,
not through progressions on a logic, like they're not through, hey, let's like try to figure this out. It's more of, hey, that guy has a shiny toy, let's steal it and reverse engineer it and recreate it. Very Battlefield Earth-esque. Instead of developing it from the ground up, you already have the engine and you kind of rebuild it from there without fully grasping the complete knowledge of what it requires.
Yes. Gray, do you have any final thoughts or questions for the intro episode before we do the closeout thing?
I don't think so. As far as Clovis Bray is concerned, I mean, we should, in theory, we should be learning a whole lot more about them and what goes on with them in Beyond Light. Because if we're
Mhm.
gonna visit the Deepstone Crypt, that's gonna be a lot happening there.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think starting the advanced episode with discussions on the exo, what we know about exos and the development of exos is going to be a good place to start. So, shout outs. I'm going to have you go first, Gray. Do you have any shout outs for us or for anybody else out there for you?
Oh my, there's actually so many. I do want to give a shout out to my lovely girlfriend, who is also a Destiny Sherpa. She is far more skilled than I am. If you want to find her, just look for her on Twitter at Mal Nightingale. And if you need any help with raids or anything like that, contact her, contact me, anybody who we're usually interacting with or friends with. We will definitely help you. Not any that I can think of.
And your contacts are at Sentinel Gray, Gray having an A instead of an E, at pretty much everywhere, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. My shout outs go to the behind the scenes workers of Termino because I get to do the fun stuff. I get to record the lines and be a character on screen, essentially. But the people who are doing the modeling work, the capturing, the audio tech stuff, we have a composer like Owen Spence in particular, the guy who Atlas Music, who did the Music of the Spheres back in the day before Bungie put it out. He's composing music for it. So there's a ton of behind the scenes workers going on to help put this together. So my shout out this week actually goes to those guys because they are the bulk of the work and obviously towards Issachel as well.
Without a doubt.
Blue.
Just wrote, echoing what both of you have said, but also just again a reminder to let us know what we can do over on the Lore Network. If there's something in particular or someone in particular that you would like to see us include in those weekly lore roundups, please let us know. And also just, again, if you haven't already, we would really appreciate a review over on iTunes, and also be sure to give Green a review as well for the Destiny Lore audio file. But yeah, and then I guess as always, thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Yay. All right, let the audio file keep rolling if you're planning on staying with us, Gray. I don't know if you have to work tomorrow or anything like that.
Work? What's work? What are you talking about?
I mean, some of us have to go in to do the things with the jobs and the flavin, but some of us don't. So, I mean, if you are more than welcome to stick with us for the advanced episode and go through that. You are by no means obligated. I know you're on the East Coast, and we're already at almost 1 a.m. there for you. So
That doesn't bother me.
Cool. I'm going to go to the restroom real quick. Continue to let the audio run real quick because it's just easier to cut and paste everything together and then cut the episodes out. And I'll be right back.
Not by me.
Nope. Work?
You okay?
Yeah, no. Dancy's like, work? What is work? Does it taste good? Nope.
I mean, for some people it does.
I guess it depends on what you're doing, but the general answer is nope. Is it edible? Also depends on what you're doing. Some people, that is a affirmative. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This one's the Hephaestus Index.
What's edible? What did I miss?
Oh, Dancing was like... Dancy's like, work? What is work? Does it taste good? I was like, nope. Is it edible? And it was like, well, it depends.
Yeah,
Some
it really does
places
depend.
you can say that your work is edible, which then resulted in that I'm not interested. Royal taste tester. The royal taste tester. That's a pass or fail job right there.
That's a brave job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone
On one
who-
hand, you get food. On the other hand, you may die.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Wolves with the fur.
Boots with the fur. Do they have hooves? They don't have hooves.
They have claws, don't they?
They have claws.
Yeah.
I know the Fallen have claws. I don't think the Hive do. The Hive just remind me of like dinosaurs
God
with
bless
buggy
it. Now I'm
eyes.
gonna have to go look up Hive character concept.
model.
Fucking hell. Oh my god, that is a really weird. Oh, that's a DeviantArt. Okay, that's not what I was.
You found the not safe for work version.
Well, it's actually this one is safe for work. There is one that's right beside it that's not safe for work, but this one that
Of
actually
course.
surprised me was actually it's just a giant tick, I think is what that one is.
Okay. Have you guys seen the Destiny magazine, the Solar Embrace
God.
magazine?
This thing has boots with fur. Not gonna
That is
lie to you.
amazing.
Oh, that's because why did that come up as get out of here? So
Blue
raid,
just mumbling to himself.
raid,
Yeah, this is
raid
normal.
what is it the raid that stupid mobile game that's everywhere.
There's
Oh,
tons
the
of
enemy
them.
race. No, it's God bless Shadow God bless it. If I wasn't
Not Shadows of Amalar. That's a totally different game.
No. Anyways,
Raid
there's
Shadow
apparently-
Legends.
Yeah,
No.
that stupid thing. That stupid thing. Apparently one of the enemies is Hive. I don't know. But she has boots with fur. Anyways, moving on. This is a Hive Knight. He's got boots.
He is.
He's got big boots. Bootsies. There is not much fur. There is a sharp, pointy thing that is sticking out of his boot.
Toe
It's not fur.
spikes.
Yeah, he does
That's
not have toe
actually-
spikes, actually. Surprisingly. No, he does not.
Toe
He
s-
has pointed boots, but they are no toe spikes.
Oh, so they're cockroach killers.
Yes. Or very, very good dancing shoes, depending on how you want to, which culture you want to go to.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Oh my god.
I just saw the magazine.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Fail safe.
With this bikini chat.
Oh.
If you haven't clicked on that link that I put in there of Toast Hadge status that he just put out, it's the new Destiny community artist magazine, which is basically a collection of art and short stories. And what's his name? I'm blanking on
How
it.
far am I going to
Lily.
have to scroll down on this nonsense?
It's not terribly far into it. It's a ways. It's a pretty large magazine, but its failsafe has a bikini on because this whole magazine is themed around summer. And there's some really funny ones. There's some real fun ones. That Ada. There's also one further down in the catalog that is Ada, Eris, and Mara.
Is that
That is
the
a
one
little-
that this thread is not loading for some reason.
I found the emissary one. Let me tell you something. If the emissary looked like that, I would constantly visit her.
With she's got great cleavage in that one.
Yep.
Did you find the Shax one?
I also would not mind that one. I'm equal opportunist.
I just found the failsafe one.
Yeah, I actually
That's
pulled it out
amazing.
on Twitter.
That cackle. Oh my god.
The Titan with the chest. That one scares me. That is a big Titan.
I can't
A lot of the Mara ones are really good because it's just her hanging out on an inflatable ribbon head.
Yeah. There's a Riven one in there too. Riven in a bikini later
I
on.
just saw that.
Yeah. There's some pretty amazing ones. You guys should go give it a look. And it tags all the artists in the bottom left or right of each page.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go and
The
find them on
PDF
Twitter.
He has them on PDF on. That's the one that actually I found. Was the oh yeah, that's Kevin Rages. He was gonna do that Mara on the inflatable ribbon. He was gonna do an entire. Have you seen the entire pool scene that he was gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. He was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Saint 14 with the server.
I think my favorite is the fireworks one.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
It's so cool.
Go one.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: there's one with Ada, and like she has tattoos all over her, and I'm like, that's doing something to me, and I'm not 100% sure I'm comfortable with it or not.
You know, Ada does have those tattoos. She has
Does
basically
she have all of them?
Yeah. She has the porcelain tattoos. Like, it's basically Chinese porcelain. It's the same type of art that's on fine china. That is actually her tattoo set that is on her in game.
Riven with the sun hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some really great ones. I think one of my other favorite ones is the art.
Oh my god, the Fellwinter one.
Uh-huh.
With the drink?
With the ghost in the drink. The little exclamation mark. Yeah, so 9 Hydras. He did that one last year.
Yeah, she did.
Yes.
There's some really, really fun ones.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's 94 pages long. Like, there's a lot of art. Mithrax. Yeah. Mithrax in a bikini. That one kind of threw me a little bit. I do like, there's one towards the end. It's on page 93. It's a hunter playing a game. It looks like sort of Destiny, or it could just be humans, like just normal human, or there is a window on the outside. I don't know. It's just a hunter playing while not outside at all. There's an Aphrodite one on page 92, and it's like, if only. Anyway.
Sit there looking at Aphrodite like, babe, you can throw me anytime.
Right? I would not be opposed. She wants to chuck me like a spear. All right, Blue. Should we?
Oh my.
Oh my.
Yeah, you can't find one with the throw. Oh, wait, baby. Aha! I did find one!
A thrall concept art?
No, it's actually a rendering of a cursed thrall.
Does it have hooves?
I'm gonna put that in. It's
pretty sure they're still claws.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if I would call them, because if you look at the knight, like if you pull up the knight and then you look at the thrall, you can definitely see how it grows, like as the thrall would progress, like how it would grow into those boots.
It reminds me a little bit of cows with the way that the thrall feet are. Mm-hmm.
Hooves.
So I guess you can call them hooves. What?
No, they're more claws, but they remind me of cows. Yeah. The cloven hooves. Oh shit! That's amazing.
Cows that explode all over you. What?
Oh, I found some Acolyte renderings. That's really freaking good. ArtStation is a really dangerous place for me.
Yes, for most of us.
Can we just call them silhouettes, not question my suggestion?
Stilettos.
Oh my god.
Okay, Jay, focus. Unless you need a break.
No, it's good. All right. Okay. All right. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on August 21st, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the lore regarding Mars. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who've signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the totally not staring at the Aphrodite art in the new Solar Embrace Destiny Artist magazine that came out today. Yeah, I'm still here, green-eyed music lover. She's in green too. Like it was meant to be.
Is this like on the level of Sure, or is this like?
This is different. It's not the same level as Sure, or Mara, or Petra, or Anna, or there's a lot. Let's just say that I have a thing for very strong women.
I could have never guessed that. And last but definitely not the least, not today's guest co-host, we have our good friend Sentinel Gray. Gray, how are you doing? What page are you stuck on?
I'm doing good, and I'm stuck on page. Hold on, I just scrolled past it. It's right here. Hold on. I'm stuck on page 78. Ada won with all of her tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. Who was the artist for that one?
That would be. Is that who was the writer of the article?
Tostage.
Yes, Tostage is the one who did it.
Yes, Lily is amazing, an amazing artist. She actually did a few different pieces in this magazine, and the Ada is very nice, very, very nice. All right, Blue, we should go and talk about.
So enough with the chatter. Let's get right into. Let's talk about Hephaestus, because that's gonna tie into Venus. Never mind. Anyways.
We're getting stuck on women. The Hephaestus Project. Clovis Bray. Hephaestus Project was the project about creating all the different types of weapons. Blue, do you have that card? You do have that card pulled up.
Yep.
And this is back to, we were talking in the introduction episode, at the end of the episode, about the Concierge Ai, and this is one of the consoles or terminals you can go to. This one is in the Aurora Reach area, so it's right outside of Rasputin. And it basically talks about the different aspects that you can find weapon-wise that they were working on for Rasputin. It mentions Valkyrie, which everyone knows what that is. That's the javelin that you guys get to throw in game. Sleeper Simulant. Everybody hates that gun / loves that gun. Has love-hate relationship with it. Hades Flame. And Aurora Knives, which one of those two we got to see in the live event. Would we say it's the Aurora Knives more than Hades Flame?
Well,
it's hard. It's never been confirmed.
Right. I would say I was actually thinking you were going to talk about the actual quest to recover the shard, because we get to see, I want to say that was Hades Flame. But that being said, we also have a comment later on in this entry that says that there are currently, at the time of the recording of the AI, there were currently over 150 projects in varying stages of research and development. So, these are just one, two, three, four options. And we know that he has been inventing weapons because Anna references it in later entry because he has been adding to the index.
Yeah.
So I mean, like
Okay,
he's been building. Yeah, it says this catalog of next generation weapons ranges from planetary cannons to small and mid-sized arms for use by ground infantry. So the reference there is actually in connection to an event that occurred in the collapse, the Devlin Forge, which was the creation of a mass production run on fusion rifles to provide to the civilians and military that were present to try to help defend themselves. It did not work out well, but that is also so one of those weapons within this index we've also had reference to in Destiny 1 lore. That was actually part of the sleeper stimulant or super simulant quest originally, if I remember that correctly, because you took one of those frames and actually, I don't want to say perfected it, but you like upgraded it to get the sleeper simulant.
Kind of, yeah. You had to do it in the Wrath of the Machine raid.
I mean, yeah,
was part of it.
Well, yeah, that was when they brought it back. But like the original sleeper simulant quest line, you actually find out that you take one of those fusion rifle frames and you actually put, I want to say it's like 10 or 13% of a copy of Rasputin into the weapon. So actually sleeper simulant was a proxy of Rasputin that we were carrying around with us. Because it was basically him giving us that weapon in order to allow us to defend him. So he basically used it as a pass key to allow us into different areas
So
that normal guardians were allowed in.
Let me backtrack a little bit. I got so excited to talk about the weapons that I forgot to introduce our other guest. I am so sorry, Gray.
This is Gray. Gray, say hello.
I know, but it's my fault. Sentinel Gray is here, guys. He's back. Our Russian accent voice actor extraordinaire friend.
Hello, how are you doing?
Although I threw Jersey out there, you threw Russian out there. It's fine.
That's okay.
It's fine.
I have a question though. Are some of the weapons that are being talked about here, and once again, lore noob, basically, are they part of the Icolos project?
Yes.
Okay.
The Icolos project was the project that ultimately culminated, if I'm remembering this correctly, it ultimately culminated in the sleeper simulant. I know the Devlin Forge project, which was a separate project. The Devlin Forge project was the one that provided fusion rifles to the general public during the collapse. Before Rasputin went into deep sleep, he tried to help the public before he finally was like, I can't, I got nothing.
He tried to do what the Black Armory basically ended up doing. He tried to do the forges, essentially, not the same exact style, but try to give guns to civilians in a way that would work.
Yeah, I would argue that the reason the Black Armory may have achieved a little bit, I mean, they ultimately still met with the same conclusion, but I think the reason the Black Armory was a little bit more successful was Rasputin was very, very much a very prominent figure, whereas the Black Armory was kind of more of a guerrilla warfare type thing. They were very quick at moving and keeping out of the public eye. So they were a harder target to hit, whereas Rasputin's factories were probably, prime targets, if you will. And so the manufacturing components were probably not easy to protect as much as the Black Armory. Because if you look at the forges too with the Black Armory, the forges are actually kind of mobile themselves.
Right, yeah.
Go for it.
They were meant to be on the Exodus ships.
Yes.
That's how we got the ones on Nessus.
That's right. Okay. Whereas Rasputin's Devlin forges, I kind of always took them as more of like a factory line, like an actual, they were mass producing weapons. which,
It's not terrifying at all.
I was, I'm sure that whoever was at the receiving end of the weapons for having some sense of defense probably was not too upset about it. But I mean,
sure.
I mean, right. You're correct in the sense of like, it's like the Spartan 2 argument from Halo 2. It's like, yeah, sure, they happened to save humanity. But what was the real reason that we had these guys, that take like 6 years to, like that timeline doesn't really match up. Oh, that's right. The independence. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. Like, we also know that Rasputin had exo militant units that were fighting Vex. So Rasputin having a weapons factory or multiple weapons factory, it's I know it's really easy to jump on the whole thing of Clovis Bray being nefarious, but like that reminds me a lot of one of the recent things that Seth actually came out and said with the Forsaken entry or the Forsaken expansion about like, it's easy for us to jump to the negatives because it's hard for us to imagine a utopian world actually being something. But as much as that is an easy thing for us to jump to, that doesn't mean that it wasn't there. Like there is an idyllic state in which not everything is nefarious. Clovis Bray is by no means a golden standard as far as morality. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that, like, when they say that Rasputin was designed to be, next generation weapons to protect humanity, it is not without, or it's not outside of the realm of possibilities that is exactly what it was. It's just the things that they were protecting humanity from, as we kind of spoke at the end of the last episode, is Rasputin was pushing the boundaries of seeing threats before they materialize to our awareness. So he might have been prepping for that situation, and
Awesome.
Thankfully, at least for a few, thankfully he was. I mean, even though ultimately it was not successful, he at least probably gave a few people a bit more time.
There are some things that Clovis Bray did that are quite helpful, though. It wasn't just about creating weapons and protection and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
They did develop the Warsat.
The network.
That it was actually, yeah. You want to talk about that one a little bit?
The communication components. That was the that's the next entry, right?
Yeah, I gave you a good segue for it.
Yay! And so this one is the one that's in the Mind Lab of Rasputin, which actually I love the name of that thing. Let me pull this up for everyone. So, kind of like, I mean, I guess really anyone who has a cell phone, and this is a personal pet peeve of mine right now because my cell phone decided not to work anymore. It's the worst thing in the world to have a phone or have the means of communication and not have signal. And so really what basically Clovis Bray came back with was this thing called the Warsat network. And the introduction is, from Mercury to the outer planets, Clovis Bray provides the most robust communication network in the system. Our Warsat network watches over us all. And I'm actually going to read this one because I really actually like the way that this one kind of plays out. He goes on to say, as humanity expanded to the far edges of the solar system, communications and logistics grew increasingly difficult among the outer planets. Pioneers of the outer frontier built makeshift transmission relays, but those were unreliable and prone to failure. The development of the Warmind program compelled a need for a unified circumstellar communication network, so Clovis Bray sees an opportunity to kill two birds with one exceedingly large stone. We built thousands of war satellites and deployed them throughout the system. These warsats link with the Warmind designated Rasputin and with each other, forming an integrated defense and a comms system. Each satellite is equipped with a state-of-the-art kinetic superconductor that shields it from Kessler debris and has an orbital life spanning hundreds of years. No matter what threats lie in store for us, rest assured that Rasputin and the Clovis Bray warsats will never cease their vigilant watch over humanity.
Well, that can help a little bit with timeline. Hundreds of years? Well, at least know it's not 1,000 years since things fell apart.
Well, and I mean, arguably a lot of the war sets falling isn't because they're falling apart. It's because Rasputin's using them as slingshot stones to hit people with.
Don't punch the anomaly.
Don't punch the anomaly.
Did you know about that lore, Gray?
No, it sounds familiar, but I don't think I've read it. What is it?
So the anomaly on the moon, there is a containment cell in the center of it. That's where the platforms rotate around the Crucible map.
Yeah.
There's a Titan during one map who decided to go up and punch it. And it was like, nothing's going to happen. Oh, nothing happened.
What you gonna do?
And not long after that, Rasputin threw a war sat at her and smashed her.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I love chat. Rasputin is basically throwing Golden Age 5G satellites at people.
Yeah. Yeah. Not wrong. 5G satellites that have lasers attached to them.
And
because
large
it's the war sat.
Sats with freaking lasers attached to their freaking head.
Right. Like the lasers on the war sats are actually what causes the Aurora knives, which is, I believe, it's what was aimed at the Almighty coming towards the tower, and in the legacy entries, the web lore that I sent you, Gray, that is what is shot at Anna Bray when she's trying to get close to the location. I can't remember the name. What was it called? Blue, do you remember off the top of your head? The last site 13 or whatever.
Yeah, God, I did, and I just blanked on it.
Hold on.
It's not Echo.
Now I'm skimming through it.
Should be fairly close to the beginning as she's talking to Jinju.
Callius?
Callius.
Gosh, man.
Names. Anyway, it was the last site that Anna was going to try to
Callus.
Get
Not Callus. Callius.
Callius.
Callius. I hate AEs. They're really annoying sounds.
That's because English doesn't have too many vowels put together. We don't practice it very often.
No, we don't.
Do you want to talk about exos and engrams? Because those exos
are recommended to only have 22 resets. Looking at you, Echo 2374.
Looks at Banshee with intent.
Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm.
No dancing. That's mean.
Brew is being mean. Challenging us to pronounce German words that neither of us know how to pronounce. Exos.
The human mind in a mechanical body. Gosh, this makes me so excited. I want this. I want it.
You want to be an exo?
Yes. Not have to sleep. Yes, that would be amazing.
You're like doing grabby hands at the screen, like, give it to me.
I want it now. I want it now. Sorry, I got disassociative exomind rejection, DER. There's no segue for that. I'm just gonna move on. Basically, they're talking about DER is really actually a really fascinating concept, because basically what it is a psychological inability to come to terms with the fact that you're in a different body, because it's so fascinating because it's actually really grounded in something pretty true. We have so many things going on in our minds that are completely and utterly unconscious. Like there are so many things that happen below the level of consciousness that what was happening with what they refer to as nascent proto-exos. So these were the earlier versions before the actual exos were formalized. So earlier developments, they would basically develop serious symptoms a cognitive disorder. And what this cognitive disorder was literally the inability to accept that they thought themselves to death, basically, but not in a way like rampancy where like Halo thought to death. No, this was something that like they would have they basically figured out what they needed to do was they needed to program the exo body to do things similar to what a human body does. So things like, I don't know, breathing. Exos don't need to breathe. There is no need for them physically to breathe, but they still do because the brain that has been digitized into the exo, whatever brain or whatever mind technology they have, the brain it requires those touchstones of comfort to allow it to remain sane. We see that today with phantom limb pain. If you've ever heard of this, it's basically if you have someone who has lost an entire limb or, either an appendage or anything like that. But basically what happens is you have ghost pains from that missing limb. Even though it is physically not present, it is incapable of giving you any information through your nerves. They swear that it will give them sensation. Usually it's like a burning sensation. It's not a pleasant sensation. Some people, like, depending on if it's a full limb or if it's just an appendage, like if you have people who have lost an arm, they'll refer to it as like pins and needles. But sometimes they'll even refer to it as pins and needles to specific areas on the limb that they no longer have. And it's basically a lot of times science has kind of come back and been like, well, these are misfirings of the nerves, what have you. But at the same time, your brain is still having to take that information that's being processed and make sense of it. And what they found with the dissociative exomind rejection is that this was something that they had to address because because of their inability to reconcile its presence in the new body, they would die. They would just either go insane or they would just shut down and become basically probably a vegetable at that point. So this was also where they introduced the idea of the reboot. This was one of the several solutions that the Clovis Bray Corporation, the Exosciences division, came up with. And what this is doing is it's basically tricking the brain into being reborn into this new body, which is where you see memory loss and fragmentation. But they said that even though that you lose your memory or you have fragmented memories, it does actually prevent to a high degree DER. And that's where they say the reboot process can be repeated multiple times to further the odds of survival. It is not currently known how many times a human consciousness can be rebooted, but scientists estimate it to be about 20. And then the second preventative measure is exactly what I was just talking about, basically programming certain what they refer to as humanisms within the exos. As machines, they have not the physical needs to eat or reproduce like real humans, but artificially injecting that drive has been clinically proven to reduce the odds of DER. So,
this is actually the argument that exos do have many of the same needs, I think is the most PG way I could say it.
Psychologically, yes. They have the same drives psychologically that humans do.
Yes.
Well,
yep. So
I would argue that some of them do.
Yeah.
It also kind of seems like that maybe that's not a standard operation.
I would say, so Chad is arguing with me. I will say that if they have the psychological need to do that Clovis Bray likely gave them the equipment to do that. And that's where we're going to end this discussion before we go too graphic with it. Because, yes, Rule 34 is a thing. And if you talk to any exo main, they will tell you that they can do all the same things that Awoken and Human can do. So,
we know one person.
yeah,
Definitely. She
Cole will fight
you
that.
to the death.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
I do have a small question about this though.
go
Mhm.
for
Is it just because the, how do I put this, the exo brain can't handle it is the reason why exos are reset? Like, is it just that it can't survive being, for lack of a better term, on or like retain that much memory for that period of time? Or what is like the reason why exos
So-
are reset?
So it's not that there's a difference between hardware and software.
Right.
The hardware of an exo would be 100% capable of maintaining and probably be fine. The problem is in the software itself. It's the ghost, the ghost in the machine. Basically, the ghost is not playing the game because a human brain has so many unconscious mechanisms that it, like blinking eyes, breathing, the need to eat, the need to sleep. These things are at our core part of our existence. Like we can't, you can't have a human who doesn't do any of these things. But that, by definition, if you don't do those, you die, or you go insane and then die. Basically, death is the ultimate consequence of not doing any of these core functions of the animal brain. Like as a mortal flesh and blood animal, these are things that we have baked into our psyche that we have to achieve. And so what you're doing is you're ripping that hierarchy of needs completely out, and you're not necessarily replacing it with anything. Because like exos, I mean, I'm sure there are basic requirements for an exo to maintain functionality, but they're not to the same degree of the hierarchy of the complex hierarchy of needs that a human would exist in. And so if you look at, just kind of doubling down on the Maslow theory, if you threaten any point of these levels of needs, you have a different psychotic break at that point. A human being, if you remove its security, a human being will revert back to requiring that being established before they then can proceed to the higher levels. Maslow had five or six, I can't remember off the top of my head, but around 5 or 6 requirements before you get to the top, at which the top is when you start being like, hey, this is where we have first world problems. Basically, it's the concept of like complex existence. Everything else is like security, food and shelter, sleep, reproduction. All these base needs in an exo don't exist. And so your brain you're talking about, millennia of instinctual psychological conditioning to want those things, or to not just want, but need those things. So to rip the carpet out from underneath it is going to cause severe psychosis. So again, it's not a hardware issue. It's actually a software issue in the sense that you're digitized.
The problem that I have with the concept of it being a software defragmentation, which is kind of like the idea that you're getting at, right? Like the software being realigned and rehashed a little bit so it works more efficiently, is that we have examples of exos who are not guardians, because adding the guardian factor in does change things most likely.
Mm-hmm.
We have examples of exos who have hardly ever been reset, who seem just fine.
Well, but that's because if they haven't been reset, their memories haven't been fragmented.
Right, but if they're dealing with having a ton of extra memories, and that's what causes the defragmentation to be needed.
Right. But
it's not.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say, if it's not an overabundance of experiences, maybe like I'm thinking the future war cult leader. I can't think of her name at the moment.
Lakshmi too.
Lakshmi.
Mm-hmm.
She's only had 2 resets, and technically only 1 reset if the original was 1, and not starting with just Lakshmi.
Right.
So,
which I would argue would probably be the case because you have 801.
So what causes the trigger to actually do the reset is the weird thing.
Right. And I would argue, I would come back with you and say, as with everything psychological, it's completely and utterly dependent on the individual. You don't
So
have
Banshee is a crazy man who has to be reset over and over again.
Banshee. Well, either that or I'm not going to be able to get through this conversation without pissing off somebody. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to basically say, like, Banshee. So for okay, let's take Banshee versus Lakshmi, because Ada. The problem with Ada is not an X, or is not a Clovis Bray.
Clovis
Exo.
Bray.
So she is her own case, like completely separate. But you have Lakshmi 2. You have Cade 6, and then you have Banshee. What is he? 44 now. The difference between those three, it could simply stem down to how comfortable are these people with themselves. Lakshmi is very confident, very self-confident. She is very familiar with what she's doing. She's very confident in what she's doing. And she's also not a guardian, which neither is Banshee. But Cade has that added component, which actually Cade mentions on top of that. But with Lakshmi, the way I kind of just go back to, if you are firmly grounded in yourself from a psychological standpoint, it's going to take what would take, one person being shaken is going to not bother you at all. And so Banshee could be, take your pick on psychological shortcomings. He could be overly emotional. He could have been a psychological, broken individual that was, let's just go crazy with theories here. He could have been digitized as an experiment from a prison. We know nothing about the basis of these individuals. And so, and just the same as what we see with the Sevamites, the Owl sector,
Right.
Each one of those individuals broke down differently. Now, granted, each one of those individuals was exposed to a different strand of Sevamites, but you notice that each one of them took different times to break down. Same with the Revelations team on the moon. There was a degree, everyone broke down, everyone went insane, but there was a degree of which there were a group of people who largely, for the most part, did not break at that time. I mean, there was a group of people who pretty much held up until the very end, and they were pretty sane. However, the commander, the one that's in charge of everything, she went bat like halfway through the whole thing, and she completely embraced the paranoia. It's the same thing here. It's who knows what is the particular strength of character that prevents you from rebooting. The thing that I do think here, and the reason I would argue that it is a software issue, not a hardware issue, is because, and this is my headcanon, so I'll clarify that really quick, is the reboot doesn't seem to rewrite physically anything. Now, that being said, we do have a comment about the number being etched on their skin, which I personally am still struggling to kind of find an answer of how that particular piece happens. But my thought is that when you talk about the reboot, it is an entirely reshuffling of the program, the software of the individual that's been uploaded, which is why you have the fragmentation and the memory loss. Way back in D1, we had the Dark Tower card, where the explanation of the reboot is them traveling across a plane to reach a dark tower. And in the process of traveling across this plane, they have to kill every single person that they have ever encountered in their life. And basically only
Kill them.
Only by killing every single person do they achieve the tower. Not many of them make it to the tower, but some do. And what is that? What is that imagery mean here? What happens when they reach the tower? What happens if they don't reach the tower? Do they lose more if they reach the tower? Or do they lose more if they don't? Because they weren't able to kill everything. We've before we have referenced this as a defrag. Really, part of the defrag is getting rid of the ghost files in your computer, and so that's really what this reboot is doing. It's actually taking the parts of the program that are causing the problem, and it's removing them. And that's why you have memory loss and fragmentation, is because it's literally finding pieces that is causing this DER, this dissociative disorder. And it's saying, okay, this is the flag, delete it. So that memory could be in the middle of another couple memories, and all of a sudden those two memories that were connected are no longer connected. So you have fragmented memories. That's how I read the concept of a reboot for an exo, is that it's literally... It's the Deepstone Crypt is both I argue the Deepstone Crypt is a backup, but it's also monitoring what is going on within all these digitized versions. And as the problems come up, Cade mentions this, as things start piling up, you kind of, they start getting more and more red flags. My argument would be that there's a threshold that once red flags hit above X, it goes and it kicks in a reboot. And then it just goes through and it just cuts all the red flags and deletes them and purges them. And then that's when you have the side effects right here that we're talking about with the Concierge Ai.
So I want to talk about the effects of digitizing information as in memories or just consciousness in general, and talk about how the engram and that concept in particular is going to become very important. And that is actually the next Concierge AI, where Clovis Bray talks about the discovery and the development of the engram and digitizing information within the construct of that itself. Engineers of the 21st century hit the physical limit in the advancement of silicon transistors, unable to resolve the issue of quantum tunneling at the nanoscopic level. The dream of quantum computing danced at the edge of our predecessors' imaginations, somewhere between science and science fiction. Ironically, it would take a further technological leap for us to later return and resolve the messy problem of quantum incoherence. That leap was first successful encoding of solid matter by Dr. Willa Bray, opening a window to the wonderful and mysterious world of the engram. The latest and most exciting application of this new state of matter is within the field of engrammatic computation. Physically encoding conventional silicon transistors allow them to safely store exponentially more information in a smaller space. With that breakthrough, our computing power has grown immeasurably, and we can now actualize what was once bound to the dreams and fictions of our ancestors. So, I mentioned earlier the concept of legacy and the concept of, it was in Duress and Egress, Anna Frayed is the name of the card, where Anna basically shoots, with the help of Jinju, her ghost, shoots Rasputin into an engram. That is a lot of information, and even Anna doesn't know if they got it all. Do we have any ideas or theories on how this is going to continue? Because we've talked about the possibility of Rasputin being not only digitizing the engram, but being transferred into an exobody himself, because we have the old concept art labeled as Rasputin. Blue, you want to kind of dive into this a little bit?
Yes, but I'm scared.
You're scared?
So I mean, like engrams are just, oh my gosh, engrams are so fascinating in and of themselves. Like, just I'm gonna just preface that. The idea of an engram stems from relic crystals, which was a derivative of the crystalline structure found within relic iron back in D1. And so basically, kind of what Green was just reading about, like the level of material that is able to be compressed into these things is actually really cool. Engrams are basically a data chip encased in Glimmer is really what they are, because Glimmer is programmable matter. The engram itself, I would argue, is really more the core of the data that's stored within that particular stuff, which is why you have to decode engrams, right? That's where the entire concept of cryptarchs come in. The Awoken are exceptionally good at this. And you can store quite a bit. I mean, like, store quite a bit of information. You have anything from a basic gun to a ship. But that being said, I mean, I think that's the challenge, right, that you're mentioning here with the Rasputin piece, is what's the limit of, like, not even what's the limit. I mean, so ignoring the time window that Anna had to shove, I just
As much information.
Just imagine someone panic packing in in those silly action movies where, like, pack all the stuff, and they have to go and they grab all their clothes and they're trying to throw it all in the suitcase and it just doesn't fit. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened with Rasputin. I mean, so, like, taking that component apart, like, I don't, there's a data storage limit. Now, with engrams, I don't know necessarily if there is a data storage limit, because when you start talking about, they're bypassing quantum tunneling, that kind of takes the entire concept of, oh, hey, there's only, 303 or 256 teraflops capability on this thing. No, I mean, if you step around that entire issue and you're talking about it on a nanoscopic level, I mean, you can store pretty much anything. I mean, it's like you're bypassing the entire limitation that we currently have with storage on a digital level, and that is, to me, just that alone, that concept alone is just mind-boggling.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say that when it comes to the situation with Rasputin, I think, the data limit is not the problem. It is literally going back to how much was she able to pump into the engram, which that's going to be interesting in and of itself too, because what happens if she forgot the black box morality system? That seems like a really important thing to bring on.
I wonder if it's, if it's the case of, because I'm assuming nowhere in the lore have they ever found a storage limit to an engram, right?
There is, yeah. I mean, chat's talking about, there's a reference where Sloane's looking for something and they're like, oh, just get an engram for a bridge. I mean,
Amanda talks to her about that.
It's like, because the thing is remember, with Glimmer is literally programmable matter. That's why it's a currency, is because it can be anything. You put a program into it and it will become whatever it has been programmed to become. Which is why when you decrypt an engram, it becomes a weapon. Or it becomes a ship. Like in D1, actually, I don't think do you decrypt ships anymore in D2? I don't think you do.
You
D1,
do get them from,
yeah.
You can get them from,
like exotic engrams?
Tests, thank you, tests.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know in D1, you would actually have to go get blueprints, then get to the engram, and, like, there was an actual process to get the ships.
Right.
Which was, I still love that process, because it actually was like, oh, I actually want to keep this ship because I literally made it. But that's where, like, when you take an engram to Raul or to, the Drifter or whoever, and you have them decode it, what they're doing is they're actually unlocking the firewall that is on this jump drive.
It's a 3D printer.
It is. It is a 3D. It's a one-time use 3D printer. And it's like that alone, honestly, makes me fascinated with engrams. Just because
So here's
just
the
fascinating concept.
concept that gets me a little bit. So engrams are programmable matter. It is just information, the blueprint of whatever weapon or sparrow or whatever you're dealing with. The idea of Rasputin being programmable, like it's just the information is inside of this programmable. It's a thumbstick. She is carrying around Rasputin in a thumbstick
Yep.
that she better not get anywhere near a magnet.
Well,
or I swear to God.
so I mean, yes, but also realize that it's a data storage unit that is the entire bauble of Glimmer. It's not like
Sure.
does that make sense? Like it's not like it's not a memory stick inside Glimmer. It's literally
I'm
the
aware.
ball.
I
No.
know.
I'm trying to verbalize what my thoughts are on that. Does that make sense? Right? Is that what you were understanding too? Okay.
It's crystalline. It's basically writing things through a crystalline
Yes.
structure.
Speaking of which, we did just get a technology just did that. I think it was last year. They actually started testing with doing stuff like that.
Another way you could look at it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but another way of looking at it is like putting music on records.
Yes.
You're etching in that music on a record. You're etching in that data in that engram.
The thing is, though, is that the etching within an engram itself, the problem with what we have with a thumbstick or data storage of any sort nowadays is that it has a limited amount of space. So engrams actually bypass that by magic at this point because it's so far advanced that I don't know how they would do it. But he talks about that the quantum bypass, right? Like the nanoscopic levels. He's able to write at such a intensely small level with such variance that what Blue was saying is that there is very little to no limit on the size that we know of.
Well, here's my train of thought. If let's just say, for sake of argument, that an engram is literally an unlimited amount of storage for data. Mm-hmm. And she dumped Rasputin onto that unlimited amount of storage of data. At that point, the only issue, I guess you can call it, would be how much got transferred in that amount of time.
Right.
But that goes in with what type of hardware are you using? Because I'm assuming that engram, because it has an unlimited amount of storage, it can take data at whatever rate you throw at it. So if you dump all the computing power that Rasputin had into that engram.
Well, and I think they were using Jinju too, weren't they?
Jinju is the one who actually shot the information in there. The thing that I would actually argue is that there are engrams with limited amount of data. The blue engrams, the green engrams, the white engrams are all of lesser powered weapons and armor pieces, which would imply that they are more simplistic, which implies they're not nearly as intricate. So theoretically, the lighter the engram in our scale that we use, the less data that is capable of being stored on it, or less data that was stored. So the idea of Rasputin being in an engram, there may be a limit. There may be an actual limit, and there may not be everything of Rasputin on there.
Well, I guess one of the questions is, what is the color of Rasputin's engram?
The color red.
It's the same.
I don't know.
I was going to say, tell me it's red.
It's the same thing as the exotic engrams from the Warmind thing. It's got like the little tetrahedron, not the tetrahedron, but the little like the hexagonal things.
Mm-hmm. Just red.
I will fully accept a full red engram too. But real quick, I mentioned the crystal data storage. That's called a 5D optical data storage. Colloquially, we call it the Superman memory crystal. But it is a nanostructured glass that is designed to permanently record digital data using a femtosecond laser writing process. The theoretical limit for the the version that they came up with, I think it was in 2013, was 360 terabytes worth of data for billions of years. So yeah, we have cases in which we are using crystalline structures to store data on, and the way that we store that data is in such a way that like you can, I mean, let me see. Up to 18 layers have been tested using optimized parameters with a light pulse energy of 0.2 microjoules, with duration of 600 fs and a repetition rate of 500 kilohertz. Like it can do this exceptionally quickly, and it can store just a mind-boggling amount of information. And this is nothing compared to what's being described in an engram. So,
all right. So I have another question / theory. So
Yes.
and if we're staying too much on a topic, please let me know. We can move on.
No.
So if whenever Rasputin got transferred into an engram, was he 100% knocked out unconscious, or was he there whenever the process happened?
that's what chat
was
just brought up. Is it the cookie
freaking
episode
out.
from Black Mirror?
Okay. The only reason why I ask is, I don't know if this would work that way, because engrams are predetermined data, like you said, white and green and blue and all that. Would it be possible, if he knew what was happening and if he was conscious, that he could rewrite the engram to take all of his program?
The problem is that what was initiated, Rasputin was under attack while this was going on.
Yeah, he
And
was fine.
Jinju, yeah, I mean, maybe. Jinju was actually the one to shoot the information into the engram. Jinju pulled the information out of Rasputin's base core and shot it into the engram, which would mean that Jinju, if anything's missing, it's Jinju's fault, and we could shoot that little jerk.
If anything's
I
missing,
imagine Anna might have a problem with that.
It's fine. She's fine.
at least take the mites from the ghost.
Yeah, we could get rid of, what is it, Foe and Dia?
Your punishment. You miss this part, we're going to take Phobos. You get to keep Deimos so that you remember the mistake you made.
Oh, no. Oh, poor Jinju. I actually like Jinju. She's a funny ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because that's a thing that actually happens, like, because Jinju's the one that does it, that, to me, that leaves the big
question mark.
The big question mark, plot hole, whatever the hell you want to call it, of, because a ghost did it, we don't know the computing power of a ghost. So, if
considering how long it takes it to open a door.
Well, that being said, though, real quick, remember that our ghost did download the entirety of the information within the world's grave.
Yeah,
and
it
takes
5 minutes to
can't open a door.
Well, no, I'm not going to disagree with you there, but he also did that in like a couple minutes. So, I mean, what
I'm hearing is Ghost is good at downloading and uploading information, but is not good at actually decoding. It doesn't have the programming to actually decode.
Yeah, I mean that's like saying, and Lada is saying that too. Storage is not equal to computing speed. So you can be a bridge between two things and not be very good at, like, I mean, if I plug a USB cord into two things, USB cord's good at transferring data, but it's not going to, I'm not going to be like, oh, okay, you're going to solve all the world's problems now. No, that's, it's not what it's designed to do, which goes into a whole different theory about ghosts that we're not going to go down to.
I love that theory. Anyway, we should talk. Let's do an ad break real quick. And then we'll talk about let's talk about memories of our favorite missions and quests and adventures on Mars rather than go into each and individual ones. Does that sound fair? We can also continue this story about engrams and Rasputin and where in the world we're going in the future, but I want to do an ad break first. So we'll be right back. And we're back. And we're going to talk about not engrams. Or at least a little
fair
while.
You
warning.
said something,
like,
it made me good.
Oh, okay. No, go for it. Go for it.
You said something, and it made me think, like, where in the world is Rasputin? Well, where in the world is Rasputin San Diego, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing that down.
We don't know. We don't know. That's the next T-shirt.
Picture of a
Rasputin
red engram.
needs- Yes.
Yeah.
And Jinju floating off to the side.
With
Somebody
the
who
mites.
isn't. Yes, with the little mites. Somebody please design this. A Rasputin engram that is red. Where in the world is how do you say it?
Rasputin San Diego. Because it's
With-
Carmen San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Blue's writing it down. Yay. All right. So we have
I'll be
a
honest,
couple
I
of
have
different
so
missions.
many random things written down for shirts from just like in the middle of shows. I'm like, and
You should send those to me. The missions on Mars. We have quite a few to choose from. Most of them are fairly straightforward, and we've played them 100 times. Does anybody have a favorite mission, adventure, anything that they have on Mars? Or favorite thing that they've done on Mars? Because we haven't actually talked about any of the little targets, the data stores, or anything like that.
I hear that there's a really popular one that's like Will of the Hundreds or something like that.
Oh my God, Will of Thousands. That jerk.
What about him?
It's
He's a nice guy.
Will of like a few.
That jerk. I actually
Will of
we
none
were doing
now.
we were doing a strike. Yeah, no kidding. We were doing a strike the other day, that strike, and we were down to like the last second, and I don't know what triggered him to do this, but he lashed out and nailed all three of us at the same time, like that snake bite move he does.
Oh,
I guess we
was
were
too close.
Yeah, but he hit all three of us. Not all three of us were up on him. He managed to nail all of us.
Do you know the range of that snap? That's half the platform.
Well, that's why we all died. So
He
sad.
had lunch that day.
It was Last Stand too. But that one, I mean, that one's interesting because that one also had the crystals for Lumina tied to it. Because you had to shoot those with Rose.
Mm-hmm. It confuses
In
me
order
every
to-
single time I run through it too, because I'm like, why are you still here? Oh, that's right. You're just static.
I'm kind of glad that they're there though, because it's a nice reminder of what else happened in the strike. Because there are some things that I've forgotten that we've done at this point that we just don't go back and do anymore. Psionic Potential I thought was fun. That was a throwback to the old Scion Flares without actually having Scion Flares.
I was very upset about that, but yes. You know, there's just so many fond memories about stepping into a war with the Cabal on Mars.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to taking out their command one by one.
Did you see the cross stitch
Yep.
that I think
Jess
was it
is
Nerd
making,
and Needle did it?
Yeah, no. Jess is Crafting Geek is doing it.
Uh-huh. Oh my gosh, cannot believe. I hope she sends that to Lance. What's the name of the other strike? The one with Nokris. I don't have it on the spreadsheet because I did not get all of them on there.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
That one.
I'm still in D2, so I can pull it up.
I've purged that one from my brain. Strange terrain.
Strange terrain.
That one I need to actually do to get the stupid rocket launcher. I need to do it as the Nightfall because that is the one thing I'm missing for Wayfarer, and I've never done that Nightfall.
Oh,
Have fun. Bye.
Yeah.
I had a that was one of the ones that I needed for Wayfarer, and let me tell you, the noise that I made once I finally got Osprey to drop. Cool.
It's like the Gallahorn of this game without actually being good. Hephaestus was the one where we learned about the different weapons. We actually learned about those in game. That was kind of cool.
I'll be honest, my favorite memory was really the ghost scans with the Concierge AI. I know that's not like a mission or anything like that, but like the because of the, like, I mean, obviously the conversation we just had, but because of what that opens, like the doors that were opened because of it. The other one that was fun was the God, what was it? When you ran around and you shot the little
Targets.
Yeah, the little targets that were like different elements or whatever. So,
Oh yeah.
what was that? Was that
Data nodes.
Yeah, but that wasn't for Polaris Lance, was it? That was for
Sleeper.
World Line Zero. Nope.
Oh, okay.
World Line Zero and the Sparrow.
Oh, that's right.
There was
So that
because
was-
you got.
I like that one just because
5 of them to get
Yeah.
the weapon,
Sparrow.
and then you got all 40 something of them to get the Sparrow.
yes.
Actually, now that I think about that, shouldn't this might be a little bit of a gripe and a complaint, but shouldn't they have made whenever you put all the pieces together, you get the code, and then you have to go to the node in order to open it up, and you get the thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so isn't the catalyst for Sleeper opening every single one of them, but you can never, like, it doesn't let you decide which one to go to. It always gives you a random one.
Oh, those are the.
There is a theory that you
those
can
are the singers.
control. Yeah, there's a theory that there's a way to control them, if I remember correctly, because there was, oh gosh, it was something like they found a pattern based on the location that you opened it and then the location that it unlocked. There was a theory that like it would never open in the same zone that you were in. So
I did notice that.
So if you had particular ones in other zones, they kind of broke down. I think it was Raid Secrets. I know that's a huge surprise. That figured this out. Like I was just like, but there was a theory too that like if you had one or two that were missing, I think they said something about if you were in orbit and you unlocked them, it would have a higher chance to focus in on those. I think that was. I would have to dig that out. It was a while back that I saw that over on Raid Secrets though.
Okay.
So the music boxes and the targets were 2 different little quests, though. But those were actually, I thought, was the exception of getting enough public events or adventure or patrols or whatever to get the keys to do the music boxes. Yep. I thought those were kind of fun, to be honest. I enjoyed the targets.
I still haven't finished those.
Do what?
I still haven't finished those stupid things.
I finished it on both Xbox and PlayStation separately, so you can finish those.
No, you still don't have the Osprey, do you?
I don't want it.
I don't have the Osprey. I don't do Nightfalls often enough.
There's a clip that I have that probably my most favorite memory of Mars is it was whenever I was going for Wayfarer, and I only needed the 18 Kelvins and the frigid jack. I walk up to Anna Bray and I do this whole entire long spiel of like, hey girl, it's your boy. You know, I like you a lot, like flirting with her before I turn this thing in. I was like, I'd really like an 18 Kelvins or a frigid jackal. I turn it in. She gives me an 18 Kelvins. I was like, thanks, baby girl. And then walk away.
Those moments,
we're done. Don't talk to me again.
It's like,
God, that's like
right.
that brings back Vault of Glass hidden chest memories. All right, everyone, jump 3 times and stand on the chest backwards. What? Just do it.
Well, you know the rituals with like the Trials lighthouse chest too. Like they would do prayers over the top of it.
Unload Gallahorn into it.
That was, oh gosh. Yeah. I was the one that always, because I just have really annoying RNG, but I was the one that they were all like, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I just walked up to the chest and opened it, and they're like, I hate you so much. Because I was like, oh, look, Vex Mythoclast. Like, done. All right, moving on. Let's just get out of here.
Never got that weapon. I know it's not coming back, but I hope it does at some point.
Oh my God, that weapon was so much fun. The thing that eluded me,
something back for it.
The one that eluded me for the longest time was Fatebringer. That was the one that when I finally got that, I was like, yep, this is never coming off.
You know, one of my other favorite memories of Mars is showing up at Rasputin and somehow, some way, Big Bald and Blue is there after we fought our way in. He beat us there.
He opens the door. What took you so long? I hate you
Right?
so
Like-
much.
Zavala has cheat codes.
Like, bruh, if you could get in here the entire time, what the hell did we just do?
Well, I
Right?
mean, he just made a wish on a dragon, right?
Rasputin
Oh my
has
God.
so
Yes.
many good little things. Like Osiris gets in a fight with Rasputin.
Savala's ghost can open doors.
That's funny, but Zavala's ghost also gets taken over by Rasputin for a hot minute too. Back in season of the
That was,
it was the
Shadowkeep.
yeah, but it was it was not season of Undying though. It was the season after
Oh,
Undying.
Yeah, it was.
Worthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said unworthy, but it's worthy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then man, Rasputin lore in general, because we talked last week about Io and Arecibo and all of that, and then you have Rasputin taking over Zavala's ghost for funsies.
Which
Which
by
I
the
bel-
way,
Mhm.
that it can't be that difficult to do if Rasputin and the darkness can do it almost on a whim.
Yeah. Gosh. That is a little. The darkness is Rasputin, but in the future.
Don't do that.
Hee 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 hee
Don't
hee.
do that.
But that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But here's a. You know what story we
I love
haven't-
how like everyone's like, oh, don't do that. I'm like, no, no. I don't.
You're right. It doesn't make sense, but still, don't give them ideas.
No,
I
that's,
think
now
it's
that's
funny.
fair. That's fair. That's a fair point.
You know what we haven't talked about that's actually heavily related to Mars? We kind of semi-mentioned it with the mention of Myelova. We haven't talked about Ares 1. That lore actually came back in D2 as well. It's not tied directly to Mars because we got that lore through Eververse, but it is
Well,
a Mars mission.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's also, I mean, I would argue that Ares 1 kind of transcends a single planet because it's both. I would argue it's both. I know it's not EDZ, but it would be Earth.
Earth.
As much as it is Mars. If not, actually, I would almost argue Ares 1 was a little bit more Earth, especially with the stuff that we got this installment, because a lot of what was going on with Ares 1 was actually what was happening in the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And how someone may or may not have removed a threat to itself.
OR.
Man, sucks that those fire alarms were defective, doesn't it?
Do you know that story, Gray?
I don't think I do.
So in Ares 1, it's the mission for the very first cutscene in Destiny, period, where you see the Traveler for the first time back in D1. That is the Ares 1 mission. That is the group of astronauts that went out and met the Traveler. Well, we got some armor pretty early on in D2 that talks about the story behind them going to Mars. And one of the instances that happens is that the AI, I think his name was just R, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just it was just referred to as R.
So the AI is implicated in this fire, which
They can't prove it, but it's all like, it's like, there was a lot of defective components in this thing that the clubhouse went up in fire, and there happened to be the one person who was trying to. I don't think she was
derail
trying
everything.
to. Yeah, she wasn't trying to shut him down, but she was basically trying to limit his overreach because she was mad because he was making judgments on all of them, which was hilarious on the other end of the spectrum because he was being a little judgy McJudgerson, like forming opinions about each of them behind their backs. And she wanted to take it up to who was it? Was it Hardy that she wanted to give it to? I think it was Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And Mihalova was trying. Well, and that's, I think that's the argument right now is like, to be fair, we don't know that it was R that removed the threat. It could have also been Mihalova, because Mihalova was very territorial when it came to her work. I kind of think it was R, but just simply because Mihalova was still part of the team and still pretty integral to the team even after that, which it just seems weird. But
what's cool though is that with the Fellwinter mission, we actually got to see some remnants of R, like the historical aspect, right? Like that's what they were talking about in the final. I want to say it was a vlog that Bungie was doing.
Well, that, but also when you finally get to Fellwinter's shotgun, or Fellwinter's what was it? Fellwinter's Lie. When you go to retrieve it, the satellite, the original, like one of the original bodies of Rasputin, Ghost comments about it being a ship, a basic
AI.
ship AI that was basically responsible for like keeping its passengers alive. That is the AI that was R. Like, so they basically connect the dots there that connect that R was the basis that became Rasputin. And that's what I was saying, I think it was earlier in the intro session. Mihalova brought R into existence, but it was Anna who kind of guided and grew that into Rasputin as we know it. But that would be why, that's my understanding of why Rasputin is quote unquote Russian based, is because of that connection to Mihalova being from Russia, and that was her life project, was the construction of the AI that would become R.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Russian accent just sounds really good in that distorted cybernetic tone.
Yes. Hard to recreate, though. Infested Potato was trying to do it, and it's a mess.
Yeah, it's super difficult.
So I'm trying to think of some of the other things we had. Pilgrimage, Strange Terrain, Psionic Potential, Hephaestus, Piece of the Past, the World Quest. The World Quest where we are told by Zavala to get rid of all the data, like to destroy the terminals that contain the data for this project. And then Anna's like, make me a copy.
Make me a copy first.
That one's fun.
I promise I won't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm. He's right. It would be dangerous. Do what he says, but make me a copy first.
Yeah, that is
Hephaestus.
That was Hephaestus. Which is a good thing we kept that, because, you know, almighty.
Just a wee bit. Let's see. The Omni Key is the one that is in the World Quest. Honestly, the World Quest is not one that stood out to me, and I don't know.
I like the World Quest because it highlighted something that we didn't know, which was the tensions between the Brays. Because Willa, Elsie, and Anna did not get along at all. And if I'm trying to remember correctly,
well,
Elsie and
Anna
Anna were sisters.
Willa did not.
Willa was, I got the feeling that Willa was like their mom, or a generation older than them. Not necessarily their mom, but like she was above them in age, because I think she was the one that was calling shots. And then like wasn't Elsie, man, I haven't read that particular thing in a while, but wasn't Willa trying to actually like get rid of one of them? Wasn't it Elsie that she was trying to get rid of?
From a project, I don't think permanently, although there was implications that it may have been permanently. I think she was trying to get her off of a certain project that they were working on, because Willow always worked on the more dangerous ones, the Siva.
But that was the whole world line thing,
everything.
right? Was she was smuggling the world line off planet. Because
Elsie
that's how
was?
Elsie was because I think that was the whole, or I want to say that was,
well, The data nodes were Elsie's all, like, that's the reason why you
gosh,
go
yeah.
through the data nodes,
Yeah.
because the data nodes are things that Elsie placed around the planet to trigger the release of Worldline as a way to get off, as was the Sparrow.
Yeah, the Sparrow was, and that was the connection between them and Alton, right? So,
Which Alton is, it's hard to tell, like, the family tree for sure,
yeah, oh
but
gosh.
Alton comes across as like a brother or an uncle.
Yeah, definitely more close to Elsie and Anna than Willow was. And then you had Clovis Bray and then Clovis Bray Jr., who were somewhere in the mix as well. So, yeah.
Also, Anna was adopted. I think that was one of the other things we found out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was correct, because I think that was the Polaris Lance story arc, was how she was adopted, but she made Polaris Lance, if I remember correctly, or Golden Age Anna made Polaris.
Yes, Elsie made Polaris for her adopted sister. Or not for her adopted. Elsie knows I've been working in the lab trying to perfect the scout rifle, so Anna built it. I thought she'd be angry that a weapon like this was a Bray project, not something for her adopted little sister. But this morning she surprised me. She handed me the weapon, a smile on her face. She told me she had checked it over, but only I could finish it. So Elsie and Anna were close.
Yeah, and I think what happened with Elsie and Willow was Willow wanted to use the world line to, like, the technology that was in the world line, she wanted to use it in other weapons. Like, she wanted to expand upon what world line had.
Right.
And Elsie knew the potential and didn't want to do it because she knew it would have been catastrophic if that was the case.
I mean, given Willa's involvement with the SIVA research, I mean, that I totally can see that being the case. Because I swear, I'm going to have to look this back up, because I swear there was an entry about Willow walking around with a gun. swear there was, like,
around a gun.
It was like Kelvin 18 or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
I remember what you're talking about.
It was something like, I remember reading it and being like, that is really creepy. Like, it
is 18 kelvins.
Or 18 kelvins, yeah.
I've never thought I'd be carrying a gun. I'm a scientist, not some kind of soldier. But the way things have been going in the labs, I just don't feel safe anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I've heard rumors of what happened with the SIVA project and some of the people involved. Let's just say they aren't answering their email. Willa has been seen roaming the halls, keeping an eye on us. At least the sidearm is easy to conceal. So it's not Willa carrying the sidearm.
It's the scientist for defense.
Yeah.
Because that's right, because that's what Dancing and I were talking about in chat, is Willa had the previous team for Shirazi with the SIVA mites. She had them, air quote, removed or let go, and we never found out what actually happened to them. But she did forward the concerns of Shirazi to the new replacement. And that's what Dancy and I were talking about, because I always read that as her manipulating things, basically being like, look, this is what's not allowed. And then, yeah, this thing plus the flavor text is like cold-blooded. Like, that's it.
So the Worldline 0 entry is an email from Willa to Elsie congratulating her on it, and then Willa suggesting all the different implications, and then immediately in this email there's a string of commands saying to delete everything, and it deletes over 1 million files. I'm trying to count this up.
Yeah, 1.4 million, except for
one.
And H-index, Hephaestus index 005 could not be deleted.
So that would be the Hephaestus project.
Right. Which I would assume you could maybe argue that was the actual sword that we get.
Well, the Hephaestus project was the thing that we were helping in the adventure, because that's the name of that adventure.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the Hephaestus index.
Which is what
So-
we recover, isn't it? That's what we recover in that adventure.
Yes, yeah, but what I was saying is like the database, or the word will come to me in just a second. The blueprint for the World Line Zero sword could be the Index 05. That could be the blueprint for that sword, possibly.
Gotcha. Scary stuff. All right. I have no more things to chat about with this one, unless you guys want to theorize some more about what's going on with Mars. What we haven't done is theorize exactly what's going to happen to the planets that have the pyramid ships on them. Anybody want to give a shot at that, or take a shot at that?
I'm willing to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to really back up anything that I say other than. So I don't know. And once again, you guys know better than I would. I don't think that the planets are going to be destroyed. Like, I don't think they're going to be fizzled away, blown up, or anything like that. I think what might happen is that they're going to be. How do I put this? So overrun with darkness that they become toxic for us to stay in. So, like, we've seen in the Crucible, some maps are leaving, some maps aren't, from the planets that are leaving.
Correct.
So the only thing that I can think of that would, because I mean, I'll hand it to them. They usually keep it really straight and narrow whenever it comes to like lore and stuff. There has to be a reason why Crucible matches are still taking place on these planets that aren't inhabited, that we can't go to anymore. So the only thing I can think of, and this would be really cool, I'm not expecting them to do this, but if we'll just say that each of the pyramid ships unleash, like, we'll just say a dark fog over the entire planet that's toxic to us, whatever. But these Crucible arenas are a safe place for whatever reason. What would be cool is if in the background, in the skybox of these Crucible arenas, we see that black fog or whatever it is that is toxic to us, that we can't explore the rest of the planet except for these Crucible maps.
That would be cool. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to blow up the planets. I don't think it's going to be anything as drastic as that, because if that were the case, we would never get back the content out of the vault. So the idea of either a darkness zone that's so encompassing, or a I'm trying to think of what the term would be in warfare, where you inhabit a zone with enemies, like a zone is completely overrun with enemies. That kind of aspect, which would lead me to believe that Shax and the Red Jacks are just so OP that they can just chase off any pesky pyramid ships from their area, or whoever, pyramid heads, if we're going to go that route, which is a lot darker than I was hoping to go for with that. But
or somebody makes something like a field to prevent, like, obviously you can't, like, we'll just say it's the fog. You can't make something that totally gets rid of the fog from the entire planet, but in a pinch, just to think of something really fast, you can technically place a device, we'll just say, in the middle of a Crucible map in order to keep the fog away from a certain distance from that device.
That would make more sense than some of the other things. I mean, we used to have fights on the Dreadnought for all intensive purposes because we just cleared the zone out, right?
Right.
Blue, do you have any theories or concepts that you want to go over with that, or?
No, I mean, like, I agree with the idea that, I mean, I'm more and more in the opinion that we are not going to have the planets destroyed. I think they're going to be declared a no-fly zone, if anything. That would be the Occam's razor approach, is basically, you know, it does the same effect. Basically, it's basically, they're not, similar to following the Great Disaster, how the moon became a no-fly zone. You know, we've got everyone pulled back afterwards. I'm trying to remember what the technical term for that was that they referred to it as, but like, you know, I definitely see that being the easiest
I mean,
way.
Sloane's going to remain there. Asher's going to remain on planet. Sloane's going to remain on Titan as far as we know because she's in that mecha suit. We don't know what Anna's plans are besides to try to fix Rasputin.
I think Anna, but Anna's in a jump ship, so I mean,
yeah.
Whereas
But I thought,
Sloane, or yeah, go for it. Sorry.
No, I thought that the whole point of that mission a few weeks back was to get everybody ready to leave.
Correct.
Correct.
Sloane is not the only one on the planet, though. Sloane has a bunch of workers with her there that had been doing different missions when it comes to cargo. There's a thing, I believe, in that mission where it talks about the not the gear, but the
mechs.
Golden Age. It's not the mechs. It's the Golden Age stuff that were being dropped off.
Oh yeah.
She's going to send people.
She also
over
talks
there
about how she moisturizes.
Yes, but that's in duress and egress, which is why she can stand being on Titan without a helmet on. But yeah, the mech thing, I don't know. The mech shows up, and for those people who haven't read the lore on Ishtar, we technically don't have this lore in game yet as of this recording. This one has not been released.
I will. God.
Go for it. No, you go for it.
No, there is just real fast. There is one thing that I would love if it were to happen. I don't know if it will. I thought about this with a few other people a little weeks back. What would be really, really cool is, regardless of what happens to the planet, if it becomes something as the planet blows up, we get a dark fog, whatever. If we did a mission similar to that week that we made them prepare, if we did a mission on every single planet to get whoever it is off the planet and then it's gone, like the weeks leading up to Beyond Light, the planets go away one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a mission, like a full-blown mission to get everybody off, and it's like you can time it, you can do whatever you want. But like, if there's a mission on each planet to get everybody off, like, I think that would kind of be really cool. So you can see each of the planets either being taken over, destroyed, or whatever the hell they have.
That would make sense with the way that they've done the seasons and how the big events at the end of the season go off. There's a lead up to it.
Yeah, that's also, I mean, slight spoilers there. That's probably going to be the Exodus evacuation component of the Traveler's Chosen quest that we still are waiting for to drop.
Ooh.
Because we had Exodus preparation, which was how we got the first half of the book. And then Exodus evacuation is most likely going to be either the second half or the third half with maybe a few other steps getting those other entries. It's
the last third.
Okay.
That.
So like, yeah, but we have an exotic quest that's basically, we're quote pending confirmation, but it's referred to as Exodus evacuation. And I'm imagining that's going to be, given the name, that's going to be basically what it is. Now, also within the lore, we know that Asher would not leave the planet, and we don't know about Sloane, but we know Asher is not going to leave necessarily, because the last we see of Asher and Vance is not leaving either. Asher
Vance goes into the Infinite Forest,
and Asher walks into the Pyramidion and brings down the lake.
Sloane is in her mech when we fly away, so we don't know what happens to her.
Sloane is, of the three of them, Sloane is the one that I can easily see them kind of tweaking that and being like, and then we come pick her up, whereas Asher's like literally in the Pyramidion, and Vance has already pretty much locked the door and gouged the eyes out of the darkness, because that's how you do it.
I loved recording that card. That was my favorite card to record. Anyway, I was
so happy that they gave Vance that.
We should do shout outs and wrap up this session. So, one more series of shout outs for us, Gray. Where can we find you on the internet? And any shout outs that you have for others out there?
You can find me almost anywhere on the internet at Sentinel Gray with an A, not an E. You can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. And as far as shouting people out, I do want to shout out my lovely girlfriend and fellow Sherpa, Mal Nightingale. You can find her on Twitter at Mal Nightingale. Green, I'm going to steal this one from you.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to shout out the Termino team because they've been doing some awesome stuff. I've seen it and I've heard it, so it's looking really, really good. And last shout out to my good friend Isicle, who is the creator of Termino and who puts in a lot of work and is really awesome. And that's all I got. I'm being awkward now.
You're okay. Awkward is okay. We're all nerds here. It's fine. My shout out actually goes to my team at Destiny Lore Audiophile. I have had quite a few volunteers from Dredge and Parable to Hypersyntax, Wicked Jester, Infested Potato, Lazrich, the Lich, have all volunteered and have recorded books for me for Destiny Lore Audiophile, and I've been editing and getting those guys queued up for you guys to listen to. I know the first book of the guest reader will be The Books of Sorrow, as read by Hypersyntax of Video Game Crosstalk, so my shout out goes to you guys tonight. Thank you for volunteering, and thank you guys for being awesome and contributing the way you guys have. Blue.
Just a general reminder again, please check out thelorenetwork.com and let us know if we can do anything to help out your search for different lore content, or if we're missing something. That's definitely something we would like to hear about, so that we can make sure to make finding the amazing content creators that you enjoy or that you want to discover more about easier for other people to find. Other than that, just be sure to leave us thoughts and reviews on iTunes or wherever you guys happen to be listening to us. We always appreciate it. Or send us an email at focusfirechat@gmail.com. But yeah, as always, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Yay, we can stop recording.
Yay.
And then export as wave, and Blue will drop the folder to upload it to in Discord. So that card with Brother Vance was... Have you read this card, Gray? Like, it's creepy as fuck.
I read it, and I was like,
I
was
didn't even know that there
thank you.
Are there cards out already?
Fucking thank you. Yeah,
on Ishtar.
It's Duress and Egress. It's the last
right,
third of it. Like, I remember reading it and just being I was just so happy because they finally gave like redemption to a handful of characters that really a lot of people have just been like, they're stupid, right? And it was like Vance and Asher were the primary ones. Asher just takes the kid gloves
Asher has
off.
a real sad moment though too.
Oh yeah,
like
no,
Asher,
he does.
Asher's sad moment of walking to go have basically a date with Eris.
Oh, that was yeah.
That one's so sad. Like, he shows up at the cradle and sets down a glass of spirits that somebody had brought him.
But he brought two glasses.
He brought 2 glasses, and he brought out these spirits, and it was a mistake that a Titan brought him because Asher had asked for isopropyl alcohol, and the Titan gave him booze. And so Asher walks into the cradle, sets out one glass, sets out the alcohol, asks if Eris needs anything or if she would like help. And she basically says, no, I'm good. And then he like hangs his head and walks out. And it's like,
yeah. It's like,
oh,
he's
buddy.
just like, he like deflates. Like, it's like, oh, of course, then he decides gets pissed off and he's like, no, I'm going to take out the Pyramidion. And, and then he does. And it's like, where did you come from? Like, what happened to the Asher that was afraid of dying? Like, oh my gosh. Like, he walks, like, there's a line about him grabbing a Minotaur with his Vex hand and crushing its core in his hand, like, and just like crumpling it. And it's just like, okay, so don't piss off Asher is basically what we're understanding here, because when Asher gets done, he will eat you all.
Brother
Yeah,
Vance's
and
is
then
just really
Neo's
creepy.
is like, yeah, and he walks the entire way. He just strolls through the Pyramidion, just killing everything. But yeah,
Let's see.
Vance is. I liked Vance because the very ending, it was like, oh, you're not a whining sycophant. You're just not a guardian. I mean,
he's also crazy. Like, let's see here.
I really want to know. I really want to know
read
his story, like before he became like the
a nut job.
Yeah, I want to know like his like what happened to him, because like he has one of those he has the character that's like, you probably have a really interesting story. Like there's probably something really interesting that caused you to be this way. But yes, you can read it because it's amazing.
So I'm going to start. I'm trying to figure out a good place to start. I'm going to start most of the way through it. This is after he's gone into the forest and sealed it off.
Wait, just out of curiosity, is this in game yet, or is this just on Ishtar?
This is just on Ishtar.
Gotcha. Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good. Okay. I'm good.
And the original, the true Vance, felt his infinite parallels erupt from him. He felt them bear him up as they passed. Thank you, he said wordlessly, unable to breathe from joy, and felt 100,000 touches of reassurance. He found he was weeping. There, in the swirl of his golden echoes, Brother Vance lifted his voice and began his song. Some hope for... His own voice answered him from behind. The future, it continued. Vance leaped toward it. He recognized the feel of his own cloak, and his hands found its throat. Its form twisted, turning cold and sharp beneath his hands. It threw Vance on his back, but he held on. He pushed his hands up the thing's face, under its blindfold, and dug in with his thumbs. It howled. How unfortunate, Vance thought to himself behind his wide smile, that you still have eyes. End scene. It's so dark. But when I recorded this, the singing, that is the fucking song that McCartney put for Destiny.
I thought so.
It's the fucking song. It's a reference to the song, and I was like, okay, I'll learn the song for this or that line, whatever. So much fun.
What is?
Some hope for the future. It is literally the song from
D1.
The original release.
Because I'm sure that was worth it.
Which, by the way, is not available on any soundtrack, so I could not use the original song.
For good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just...
Let's see. Anyway, the Exodus, the Duress and Egress, those cards are actually a lot of fun in different ways. Amanda and Sloan.
Yeah. Vance is yelling at the Titan for fucking all the timelines up.
Titans get a bad rap.
Oh my god. It's just so good because it's like, it's got a trench barrel. Remove yourself from my sanctum.
It's got a trench barrel. Oh my god.
It's
that
like
is the most tight thing I've ever heard in my life.
Vance is just like, get the fuck out. Like,
what else is there? Sloan and Amanda have a huge argument in Wavebreaker. That's when the one that you mentioned during the episode about there must be an engram there somewhere.
Yeah.
With a bridge in it. That's that card. That one was fun to record.
You said Sloan has a mech suit, like an exoskeleton?
Yeah, that happens in which one is that? That's the
Rheastrad,
yeah.
So does she have the mech suit before the lore card or during? What?
She finds
She-
it in the card. Or, well, she jumps
puts it
into
on
it.
in
Yeah.
Reestrad.
Yeah. I was kinda
Sloan
hoping-
went into her office and put on the Golden Age technology she had claimed from the Hive. So it's during Reestrad that she actually puts it on. And it reminds me, the way that they wrote this, of the suits from Halo, the Mjolnir armor. Because it slowly adjusts to her stride,
That
and the
or,
more she works with it, the more it becomes efficient.
Yeah, that or the javelin suits from Anthem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love
There's
both
some
of those.
good lore. There's some good lore in there.
She laughed then, and the suit interpreted as a battle cry and amplified it, broadcasted it. I'm like, oh no!
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mjolnir armor 100% without a doubt. You ain't gonna tell me otherwise.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm gonna head off and try to catch some sleep. I have no idea where my dog that I'm taking care of is.
He's not standing behind you with a bone?
No, he's on the couch. He's basically been moving from place to place because he has like 5 beds because
Why not?
rich people. Why not? But he's sometimes it's like, I don't want that. He's going to sleep on the couch. So
It's like a cat.
Yeah, speaking of which, I need to make sure the cat's back inside because I did let the cat out tonight because I wasn't going to deal with his pettiness of just meowing at me the entire fucking show.
Blue?
I
I don't have access to the Google Drive.
Okay, hang on real quick. Lotta Ren, that was in a cutscene from Season of the Worthy. It was when we unlocked the moon bunker. Rasputin jacked Zavala's ghost to share. That was when he had the ghost talk about the last days of Krakenmare.
Mm-hmm.
Let me fix that link.
Lotta, there is so much you've like missed. There's been so much stuff going on. So many things in preparation. But Gray, thank you, my dear, for joining us. You are awesome. You performed quite well, my friend.
Try that link.
I was hoping so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did great.
We are good.
Awesome.
Yay. No worries, Lotta. There's no requirement to stay in it. It's just, did we get a coin to him? Yeah, I don't think he's ever been on the show, Jay. So great. Last thing before.
Sorry.
Huh?
Nope. Continue.
Last thing before you hop off for the night, if you could DM me a mailing address that you could pick up like a physical thing from, that would be pretty awesome because Blue and I like to send out a little thank you gift to guests who come on the show. So
of course.
Yes. And I will get that to Jay. And yeah, you guys sleep well when you do. Night chat.
Stream,
Thank
have
you
a great
guys for
night.
being awesome.
We'll see you later.
Yes.